Can I start, Jignesh?
Yes, Charmila, please.
Good evening to all of you. It's an honor to have all of you for the certificate course on nutrition, which will be there for the next 3 days. All the certificate courses have had massive attendance, and they've also been viewed in the website of ICOG after the program is over. We welcome Dr. Lakshmi Shrikande, the chairperson of ICOG, who's actually the reason for all these academic courses, and all of them have had such great support, and I'd like to thank Madam for that academic work which she has started through ICOG. And we'd like to welcome the convener, Dr. Vidya Dobi, the co-convener, Dr. Ranjana Khanna, all the faculty, the esteemed faculty who are joining today to give their inputs on an important topic of maternal health and nutrition. And we'd like to welcome all the delegates who have logged in. And Dr. Vidya Dobi will be telling you regarding the certification which you'll get if you attend for all the 3 days you need to attend. You have to attend the pre-test and post-test, get a 50% pass percentage before you get the certificate. We request that all of you attend and be there till the end of the program for every day. And we'd like to thank the tech support who are always there with us for all the coordination. I'll just, one second.
Shaili, you have asked about the pre-test that will be shared. The link will be shared.
Yeah, that we'll do it later, madam. One second.
Yeah, no. They are asking in the chat box and the link. Yeah.
We request that the tech support play the prayer song, please, before we start the certificate course.
Ma'am, just click on that video.
Yeah.
It's not playing.
The links, that bar should be complete, and then I think it should be clicked.
Maybe it's downloading.
Ma'am, you have not clicked on the sound option.
Last time also we had the same problem. Yeah. Okay. That's all. We have actually solicited the blessings of the Almighty. Now it's my honor to introduce the chairperson of ICOG, Dr. Lakshmi Shrikande, and solicit her blessings. She's a chairperson of ICOG at present. She has been the vice president of FOGSI in 2012. She has received appreciation from the Maharashtra government for her work on Save the Girl Child, in the president of the Menopause Society, president of the Nagpur OBGYN Society, chairperson of the IMS Education Committee. She is a founder, patron, and president of ICOG Vidarbha chapter. May I request Dr. Lakshmi Shrikande to bless the gathering, please.
Thank you, Charmila. Thank you so much for your kind words. Very good evening to one and all. Friends, we clinicians always perceive nutrition as a dull, boring topic. But believe me, its impact on women's health is there across all the age groups. Rather, I will say it is there from womb to tomb. And the details of how this affects the woman's health, I will be covering in my talk. But when we say nutrition, we are covering both undernutrition as well as overnutrition. I know governments, there are many initiatives, NGOs are working, but at FOGSI ICOG, we are pleased to announce this 3-day certificate course exclusively on nutrition in women, where we are addressing all the nutrition challenges during the crucial milestones of a woman's life, that is adolescent, preconception, infertility, pregnancy, lactation, midlife, and old age. And you all will agree with me that we OBGYN, being the healthcare provider during these crucial milestones, we can contribute substantially towards improving nutrition of these women. I know Charmila has already told you, but let me once again I want to tell you that everyone is not eligible for the certificate. If you pass all the 3 days post-test with 50% marks, then only ICOG office will be sending your certificate on your email. I take this opportunity to say my sincere thanks to our FOGSI ICOG President, Dr. Rishikesh Pai, our Secretary General, Dr. Madhuri Patel, for always there with ICOG, with me, and they are there as a guiding force for all the ICOG activities. I also acknowledge our ICOG office bearers, Dr. Parag Binimale, who is Vice Chair, Dr. Ashok Kumar, who is Secretary of ICOG, and I also like to acknowledge the hard work done by our series convener, Dr. Charmila, and the convener for this difficult course, I will say, Nutrition in Women. The convener is Dr. Vidya Thobi, who has crafted a very well-designed module to cover all the aspects of nutrition in women. I also acknowledge the hard work done by 3 conveners, co-conveners for this nutrition course, that is Dr. Ranjana Khanna, Dr. Kiran Pandey, and Dr. Vitu Khanna. So I take this opportunity to welcome our all the esteemed speakers, faculties, experts, and all the dear delegates who have logged in for this nutrition course on women. So I wish you all happy learning, and I hand over back to Chamila for further proceedings.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for those kind words, because you are one of the inspirations for so many academicians in the country now. And when people utilize this opportunity, it's going to help so much in the furthering of their management, both clinically as well as in their academic courses. So I would like to invite the convener for today, Dr. Vidya Dobi. She is a professor and head of department at Alameen Medical College, Vijayapur. She's a KASOGA president now in 2023. And she's a chairperson of the Food, Drugs and Medical Surgical Equipment Committee of FOGSI in 2018 to 20, a very apt person to run the certificate course on nutrition. And she's presently the ICOG Governing Council member, and she has won the FOGSI Champion Award, and she's got several publications to her credit. I'd like to also welcome the co-convener for today, Dr. Ranjana Khanna. She was the National Vice President of FOGSI in 2017, founder president of the Pragira chapter of ISOPAP in 21 to 23. She is now the ICOG Governing Council member. So she was the president of the Allahabad Society from 2013 to 16, has won several awards, including the Dira Award, the DK Tank Reproductive Healthcare Promotion Trophy, and the Smriti Mailan Award. Thank you so much to the conveners and the co-conveners. And we request that the academic program stays on schedule so that all the logged in participants are able to attend the post-test correctly. Thank you so much for joining the program. Thank you.
So delegates were asking about the pre-test. I think, Chamila, now we will be sharing the link, because first we will take pre-test before we start with our lectures.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So our technical team will be sharing the link in your chat box. You have to open that link and start answering. The time given will be 10 minutes for you all to take the pre-test. Jignesh, please share the link. Yeah, he has already shared. And start the timer also, Jignesh. So friends, link has been posted in the chat box. Please open your chat box, click on the link and start giving your pre-test. Time given to you is 10 minutes. You all can see the timer on your screen now.
Yeah, hello, good evening.
The test is going on, Komal. Please mute yourself. Then we can
Okay,
hear
okay,
you.
sorry.
Last 1 minute left.
You can start the session, ma'am.
Yes, time is
Yeah.
up. Now, Jignesh, close the link. We will start with the scientific session. Please stay tuned for the post-test and the entire scientific program for day 1.
Thank you, ma'am. May I now request Dr. Vidya Dobi, the convener for the program, to give the preamble for the topics, please.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Charmila. And at the outset, I must thank Dr. Lakshmi Shrikhande, who is such a dynamic chairperson of ICOG. She has designed so many ICOG certificate course, but this is the most important course, I must say, because as already she told that nutrition is most neglected part of our life, but it is our base of life. So maternal and child nutrition is the most important public health issue in India, and first 1,000 days of life, that is from conception to 2 years, is a window of opportunity for preventing undernutrition in mothers and children, as all of us agree. Now, when we tackle the malnutrition on all of its form, it requires the nutritional needs that are addressed at the key life stages throughout the entire life course. And this malnutrition has intergenerational effect and can continue to be significant after effect if ignored. So as a critical component towards improving this situation is the knowledge of healthcare providers, including medical practitioners, even undergraduates, postgraduate students, nursing staff, nutritionists, and every one of us practicing OBGYNs as well. And even those who are working in the field of health and nutritional in optimal, we want to bring the optimum maternal, infant, and young child nutrition and the translation of this knowledge into practice. So ICOG has tailor-made this e-learning course on nutrition, which would sensitize its beneficiaries on the importance of nutrition, with specific emphasis on critical importance of maternal nutrition, breastfeeding, adolescent nutrition, the health systems approach, and evidence-based approach for quality programming. So at the end of this module, the participants would definitely be able to recognize the importance of maternal nutrition for the best start of life, understand the nutritional requirements and essential nutritional intervention during preconceptional period, explain the nutrient requirements and recommended dietary allowances during pregnancy and lactation, and also the nutritional interventions and optimal nutritional practices to address nutritional needs during pregnancy and lactation, and even in the high-risk pregnancies. So these risk assessment and the methods of assessment also we are going to listen and practice. This outline of this nutritional management with the medical conditions, even tomorrow and day after tomorrow, there are various different aspects of nutrition across the life cycle of a woman. So definitely, I hope the delegates are going to get benefit of this nutrition certificate course, which we have designed. There are eminent speakers today, Dr. Sanjay Gupte, and Dr. Komal Chavan, Dr. Ameya Purandare, Dr. Jayam Kannan, Dr. Charmila, Dr. Madhuri Patel, and everyone. They will be deliberating various aspects of nutrition. Please listen, take notes, and definitely you will be able to answer the post-test. So post-test is again compulsory. So happy viewing and think nutrition. Thank you very much. Over to Dr. Ranjana Khanna. She will be taking the proceedings ahead.
A very good evening. At the outset, a big thank you to the chairperson of ICOG, Dr. Lakshmi Shrikhande, Dr. Vidya Dobi, and Dr. Charmila. So I just wanted to say one thing, that the government initiative, the 5th Poshan Pakhwada, is currently running from 20th March to 3rd April. So this webinar could not be better timed. So hats off to Lakshmi for timing this webinar in this time. And the theme of this Poshan Pakhwada is nutrition for all, towards together towards a healthy India. The event will see the launch of Swasth Balak Spardha, an effort to celebrate and recognize a healthy child according to WHO criteria by generating a healthy spirit of competition for good nutrition and well-being. So happy learning, and we will start the scientific session now by introducing the first speaker, that is Dr. Lakshmi Shrikhande. Please put her CV.
I am already introduced.
Yeah, she has been introduced and everybody knows her, that she is the ICOG chairperson. So I would request Dr. Lakshmi to proceed with her talk on overview of nutrition in women.
Yeah. So thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Ranjana, who is co-convener for day 1 of this nutrition course. Friends, as she was speaking, women's nutrition in India has been a matter of concern for several decades for all the stakeholders, governments, NGOs, we clinicians. Despite significant progress in terms of overall economic growth and poverty reduction, the nutritional status of women in the country still remains a significant challenge. This is due to lack of women empowerment, especially amongst underprivileged women. And according to a report by the Global Nutrition, which was published in 2020, India has the highest burden of malnutrition in the world, with 1 in every 3 malnourished children, they live in India. So now let us come to nutrition in women. Why we are talking about women's health? Why it is important? Because the lack of maternal health contributes to future economic disparities for mothers and their children. Poor maternal health often affects a child's health in adverse ways, and it also decreases the woman's ability to participate in economic activities. Let us have a look at the Asian scenario. 1 in 5 women in India, in Asia is underweight. 1 in 10 are of short stature, and anemia is a severe or moderate public health problem in 7 out of 8 countries. The prevalence of overweight is increasing at an alarming rate in women, and it now exceeds underweight in all countries in the region except Bangladesh and India. So why nutrition is important for women's health? We all know better nutrition means stronger immune system, fewer incidences of illness, and of course, better health. The nutritional status of women is important both for the quality of their own lives and the survival and healthy development of their children. Healthy women can fulfill their multiple roles, that is generating income, ensuring their family's nutrition, and having healthy children. Improving women's nutrition can also help nations achieve 3 of the Millennium Development Goals, which are commonly accepted as a framework for measuring developmental progress. And what are these Millennium Development Goals? You can see the Goal 1, Goal 4, that is Goal 1 is eradicate extreme poverty and hunger. Goal 4 is reduce child mortality, and Goal 5 is improve maternal health. So how improving women and adolescent girls' nutrition will help towards this Millennium Development Goal? As I have already said, these women are better able to provide for themselves, their children, and their families. They are more likely to have infants with healthy birth weights. Well-nourished mothers are less likely to have low birth weight children. They are also more likely to have healthy babies who can survive childhood illnesses. Women with adequate stores of iron and other micronutrients are less likely to suffer from fatal infections and are more likely to survive bleeding during and after childbirth. Well-nourished adolescent mothers are less likely to experience obstructed labor than their undernourished peers. So how this woman's nutrition, apart from her own health and her child's health, affects the national economies? Malnutrition in women leads to economic losses for families, communities, and country because malnutrition reduces her ability to work. Malnutrition also leads to reduced income from malnourished citizens, problems related to anemia, including cognitive impairment in children and low productivity in adults. This alone contributes towards billions of dollars in the United States. A recent report from Asia shows that malnutrition reduces human productivity by 10 to 15% and gross domestic product by 5 to 10%. By improving the nutrition of adolescent girls and women, nations can reduce healthcare costs, they can increase their intellectual capacity, and they can improve the adult productivity. Does being a female affect nutrition? We know the recommended breakdown of carbohydrates, protein, and fat are same for both genders. Because men generally need more calories, they also require higher total intake of each of the macronutrients. Women, they need fewer calories than men, but in many cases, they have higher vitamin and mineral needs as compared to men. Factors which affects nutritional status of a woman. It depends on so many factors because it's a complex, challenging issues. These factors are household income and its utilization, quality of her environment, number of the siblings present in that family, gender discrimination, all said and done, is still prevalent, her educational status, poor sanitation and hygiene. I know now the open defecation is reducing to a great extent, but is still there, and this affects her by having the hookworm infestation and host of other infections. Her activity status and exposure to social stimulation, and what decision-making power she is having in the household. So these are various factors which affects her nutritional status. The quality of care and feeding offered to children is critically dependent on women's education, her social status, and workload. This is the statement by UN Subcommittee on Nutrition. So addressing gender inequalities can help ensure that women can get the nutrition they need, improving their own health and that of their families, and ultimately contributing to their society's development. Women who have greater control over household resources, they tend to be healthier and better nourished. When we are talking of nutrition, friends, remember the poor nutrition is throughout the life cycle of this woman, as I was already telling you, that it starts from her womb and it affects her till her old age. So we have to improve the nutrition throughout her life cycle. So what is this life cycle approach? We will be covering this in great detail in this 3-day module, and this life cycle approach can improve the woman's nutritional status. Many nutritional deficits experienced in infancy and childhood, they have irreversible consequences. So the interventions to support adequate nutrition from infancy onward, it directly benefits the woman later in life. So let us come to the first crucial milestone of her life, that is adolescent nutrition, and the factors which are responsible for poor nutrition during this adolescent phase is, nowadays we all know that ready to eat food on order is easily available. So high fat, high sugar, low nutrient foods are there in their diet. Perception that healthy, low in fat, unprocessed food is there. Lack of knowledge, poor parental role modeling, lack of food shopping and preparation classes at schools, and increased incidence of disordered eating due to fear of weight gain, desire to build muscle mass to meet sports weight cutoffs, and media and advertising messages. So what is the need during this crucial phase? They have to have access to information and services related to nutrition, reproductive health, family planning, and general health. They also need education and literacy to improve the nutrition. They also are in need of enough food, iron, and folate supplements, and they need twice yearly deworming prophylaxis. This will be covered in great details by the speakers when they are covering that module on adolescent nutrition. I will just take 30 seconds to tell you all about this prenatal nutrition. Why we are speaking about the life cycle approach? Because when you are pregnant, you are also pregnant with your grandchild. How? The eggs that may someday become the grandchild are developed inside the daughter while she is still in the womb within the mother. The eggs are nourished by the diet and environment of the mother. So as the convener of this nutrition in women course module, Dr. Vidya Tobi was talking, nutrition, it really has effect on 3 generations, and that is why you have to pay special attention to the prenatal nutrition. Then for we infertility specialist, when she comes to us for this problem, can nutrition also help in the treatment of infertility? The answer is yes. Again, we are covering in great detail about how nutrition can help, which nutrition can help, what is the role of antioxidants during our module for infertility in women. Nutrition also has an effect on the sexual and reproductive health. There was a report which was published, and the compiled results of this study indicated that despite the multifactorial etiology of sexual and reproductive dysfunction, nutritional factors may affect the sexual and reproductive health in both man and woman. Now comes the important milestone, that is pregnancy. Again, we will be covering in great detail later, but I just want to tell you in 2 slides that 1000 days window of opportunity we all OBGYN should know, and we have to encash these 1000 days window of opportunity, that is pregnancy 270 days, 365 days, that is year 1 for that child, and year 2, that is 365 days for the second year of that child's life. I'm just skipping because we will be covering in great detail. Then comes the next milestone in her life, that is lactating mother. It goes without saying that nutrition plays a very, very crucial role as far as the adequate lactation and the lactation with micronutrients which will help in child's growth is very, very essential. Then comes the old age. Here, the requirements, they differ, as many of these midlife people are dependent more on calcium and other micronutrients. Friends, on ICMR website, you all can see these details. What is NIN? That Indian Council of Medical Research and National Institute of Nutrition, that is NIN, they have published an updated recommended dietary allowance and estimated average requirements for Indian man and woman. So this is freely available on ICMR website. You all can download these booklets, that is dietary guidelines for Indians, the Indian food composition tables, and the integrated nutrition education booklet, which is there on ICMR website. You all can go through in great detail about the nutritional needs for different groups on the ICMR website. As Dr. Ritu Khanna was talking about, government is doing a lot. The Poshan Abhiyan is going on. There are various other initiatives which they have taken, like ICDS scheme. Additionally, the National Nutrition Mission aims to reduce the malnutrition in India by 2022 through a multi-sectoral approach that involves several government departments. Of course, grassroots NGOs are also contributing towards these government initiatives. And we at FOGSI ICOG, we are also happy to contribute. So remember, healthy eating is not a strict diet plan or skipping meals or avoiding snacks and treats completely, or a fat-free diet or a low-carb diet, an extremely high-protein diet, or about counting calories all the time. You have to use my plate as a guide, and this is the pictorial my plate which I have shown. Remember, healthy diet is all about balance. Balance is the key to healthy nutrition. Balance a variety of foods from all of the food grains throughout the day. Balance healthy meals and snacks with occasional treats. Balance nutrition with fun and physical activity. Of course, the serving size card is also should be there with you all as a ready reckoner, because this helps you to know how much you are eating. And also reading a food label, because this talk I am taking tomorrow. You will never bother to read the labels, and in turn, we go on consuming the high fat and high sugar which is there in the packed foods. So take home message from this overview talk is that when we are talking of nutrition, it is not just about women and not just for women. Addressing women's health is a necessary and an effective approach for strengthening the overall health system, as the women's health matters to their families, the communities, societies, and the world at large. But it is not so easy, because malnutrition is a complex issue that is influenced by a variety of factors, as we have already discussed: the poverty, poor access to healthcare, inadequate sanitation and hygiene, and gender inequality. In India, these factors are particularly pronounced for women who often face discrimination and neglect in terms of healthcare and nutrition. So friends, thank you so much for your patient hearing. And I am happy that we, being OBGYNs, we can contribute towards taking care of these women during their important milestones of their life. So thank you so much for your patient hearing.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lakshmi. That was a very informative talk. And now we'll move on to the next talk, which is none other by Dr. Sanjay Gupte, sir. Can we have the CV, please? As everyone knows,
let's skip the.
As everyone knows, he's been the past president of FOGSI, and he is an extremely dynamic and wonderful teacher. And sir, please go ahead with your talk on epigenetics. We're all waiting to hear that.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ranjana ji.
Oh my, just when the CV flashed, I was going to say, but then they removed it.
Welcome, Gupte sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
It's always a pleasure to hear you, sir.
Yeah,
Thank you
and
so
that too
much.
epigenetics.
Yeah.
So thank you, Ranjana ji, and thank you, Lakshmi and Vidya and Sharmila, for having me here. I think it was a wonderful overview that Dr. Lakshmi just told us about the nutrition. I think how to cover really an overview, she has given a good example of that. Now we are going to go on to discussing, what the diet does to us. And more than what it does to us, we are going to discuss how it does it to us. And we know already that, there have been studies which have told us that the diet does matter as far as the health is concerned. And there have been the Mediterranean diet, which reduces the cardiovascular disease. There are other kind of, whole grain cereals, which again decrease the obesity and type 2 diabetes. How does it work? There are various mechanisms. One of the main mechanisms is, of course, the epigenetics of the gene expressions, which we'll be talking about mainly. But even the contents of the diet, the enzyme modifications, antioxidant effect, anti-inflammatory effect, all these matter to the actual health outcome. So nutrients can directly or indirectly interact with genes, and nutrient induced changes in gene expression can have many downstream results, including alterations in metabolism and disease susceptibility. So what is epigenetics? Is the study of changes in the organisms caused by modification of gene expression rather than alteration of the genetic code itself. The genes may be the same, but they may or may not be expressed. And epigenetic directs the use of genetic code. If genetics is hardware, epigenetics is the software. And we know that contrary to our understanding, genes do not single-handedly actually dictate any of our characteristics. The environment also matters. And when the environment and the genetics, they come together, then the health outcomes are. Unlike gene mutation, epigenetics is a reversible process. Differences in the gene expression arising from epigenetic modifications by our environment, external as well as internal. So this was a foundational study, and many of us have seen this. These two adult mice are genetically actually identical, though they look so different. So, what was the difference in them? The difference was not in them, but what was fed to their mothers. The mothers of both mice were fed the same food. The only difference was that the brown mouse's mother was supplemented with folic acid and vitamin B12 for 2 weeks prior to conception through gestation and weaning. So this shows that having methyl donors present in the maternal diet can make a measurable difference in adult physiology of the progeny. And as Dr. Lakshmi also told, and many of these are heritable changes, and that's why they may make difference to the next generation also. So there are effects of carbohydrates on gene expression. We know that early development of obesity can occur if we feed high energy diet to the rats. Obesity is associated with increase in mRNA levels of the oxygenic neuropeptides, NPY, and agouti related peptides. We know that mRNA is something, again, decides the gene expression. If there is a change in messenger RNA, that will decide the change in the protein production, and that's how the epigenetic will work. Then dietary fat also matters, not only as energy source, but the effect of dietary fat on gene expression reflect an adaptive response to changes in the quantity and type of fat ingested. In mammals, the fatty acids regulated transcription factors include PPAR, alpha, beta, and gamma, HNF alpha, NFKB, and ACRB. What are these transcription factors? These are the transcription factors which read from the genes or DNA itself to mRNA. The gene to act, the transcription factors have to come into play, and then only the messenger RNA is created. And so when these transcription factors are affected by food, naturally the gene expression is going to be affected further. Proteins also, we know, are important for developing immunity, normal maintenance of body function and structure, apart from reproduction and production itself. The function of protein in the body is not only at macro level, but it also functions at gene level. A variety or number of genes respond to dietary protein. Both protein quantity as well as quality influences the gene expression. And of course, vitamins we know matter as far as gene expression is concerned. Vitamin A is involved in gene expression of the gene PEPCK and insulin-like growth factor gene. Biotin is involved in variety of essential proteins synthesis at gene level. And vitamin C is involved in hepatic gene expressions. And there are so many researchers have done studies. And what is found is that the diabetes itself can be because of the perturbation of these various pathways like homocysteine methyl group, which these pathways are disturbed, and diabetes appears to be an aberrant physiological condition that is characterized by disruption of folate, homocysteine, and methyl group metabolism. Then again, as Dr. Lakshmi has pointed out, the aging and diet is very, very correlated, because the aging actually modulates the gene function, because the epigenetic mechanisms come into play, and the epigenetic marks are altered because of the aging process itself. But what is important is restricting calorie intake by 20 to 50% while still providing adequate micronutrients substantially extends mean and maximum lifespan, largely by retarding age-associated diseases such as cancer. So what we eat and how much we eat does matter as far as proper aging is concerned. And then when it comes to obesity, one need not even mention that low protein diet can epigenetically program the offspring of survival. And this was seen in the so-called Dutch winter, where the pregnant ladies were starved because of the famine, and the effect was seen depending on in which trimester they were starved. When they were affected in the first trimester, then the children later on also develop this obesity in later life, and so many cardiac and diabetic issues have been researched over the years now. So we know that there are perinatal influences like nutritional factors, environmental factors, emotional factors also matter, because even emotional factors like stress and anxiety can change the epigenome of the baby in utero. And that's why, especially in our branch of obstetrics, this is vitally important. So let's look at the, maternal smoking can induce drastic epigenetic effects by alteration in fetal DNA methylation. And this Norwegian study has shown what is the HR signaling pathway and how it actually leads to smaller placenta and FGR. Then alcohol consumption, excessive maternal alcohol exposure during pregnancy is a leading cause of birth defects such as fetal alcohol spectrum syndrome. And there is evidence now which tells us that changes to the epigenome are the reason why all this teratogenesis occur. But on the positive side, there are bioactive diets in early life also, like, for example, breast milk itself. If they are provided, they will make a difference. The folic acid is one of the well-studied methyl donors, and role of folate is especially critical during early embryonic development. We all know that, but how it acts again is through changing the expression of the genes, and vitamin B12 and folic acid are key metabolic factors in this issue. What again we also need to know, just like epigenetics, is nutrigenomics and nutrigenetics, which is where I find very interesting, because nutrigenomics is the study of how the naturally occurring substances in the food alter molecular expression of genetic information in each individual, while nutrigenetics aims to understand how the genetic makeup of an individual coordinates the response to the diet. So the aim is to obtain a better understanding of nutrient-gene interactions depending on the genotype. So nutrigenomics is the science that helps us understand why some people respond differently to the same foods, beverages, supplements, etc. We can make use of that information to develop personalized nutritional recommendations. So these are actually two sides of a coin. On one side, we know that constituents in our diet can upregulate or downregulate the expression of all kinds of genes. On the other hand, genes can be, can affect by how we utilize the food also. What does it mean? That just there are epigenetic modifications, to the genes, and those are changes, as we say, not on actual sequence of the genes, but modifications to their expression, which can actually be inherited. Going further, the genes can also influence the foods that we select. There are studies which have looked at how genes affect various ingestion behaviors. For example, why some people tend to consume more sugar than the others. So researchers have identified a glucose transporter gene, and if that is expressed in the region of the brain that regulates appetite. And this glucose transporter type 2 gene is associated with impaired glucose sensing ability. And these people then tend to consume more sugars on a daily basis. While there is a gene which codes for a sweet taste, so so-called what we say always that somebody is a sweet tooth. This is that TAS1R2 gene, and this is associated with more consumption of sugar. So some people tend to overconsume sugar based on impaired glucose sensing in the brain, while others tend to overconsume the sugar based on their enhanced sweet taste perception on the surface of the tongue. So in personalizing the advice, it's important for us to understand why some people have certain likes and dislikes to certain foods and try to understand some of those genetic drivers of some of these behaviors. So we know in Maharashtra, there is, this Divekar versus Dikshit diet war. Divekar says eat, to lose weight, eat more frequently and little at a time, while Dr. Dikshit says eat only twice a day and eat whatever you can in those 55 minutes twice a day. And there are followers and people watch for both the diets. Mainly, it's not because of the diet, but it is because of their own, genes and how they react to, these diets. So different people will be reacting differently in, these situations. Not only that, even cooking makes a difference. If you cook food, especially proteins like fish, chicken at very high temperature, then these proteins interact with carnitine and sugar and form heterocyclic amines. These heterocyclic amines are actually carcinogens, but we have an advantage. We have a gene called NAT gene, and it can activate these heterocyclic amines by adding a compound to it called as an N-acetyl group. But if you have polymorphism where this NAT gene is modified, you may get cancer of the colon. So bottom line is, if you have these genes polymorphisms, you are better off baking your fish and chicken and not barbecuing or frying. So even weight loss ability matters on gene. There is a gene called MC4R, which is known as an obesity gene. It makes you eat more and or binge eating disorders, or because of that. There's another gene called as an FTO gene. And if that is expressed, then it regulates your appetite. So now it's possible, to actually study these genes. There are tests called as nutrigenomic tests, which test will tell you why actually you feel like eating certain food, or why certain food, will affect you in certain way. Well, there are two ways of looking at it. Some people may think, oh, I have the genes, so what can I do? And then they'll keep on eating and becoming obese. But the sensible people will say, well, I have the genes, so I have to eat in a better way. I have to avoid the effects of the bad genes in me. And that's why when it comes to personal advice, when we are talking of this diet in today and tomorrow, we are going to advise the diet to people. But whether the people are going to be compliant will depend on also their genetics and their epigenetics. And that's why many times it's good to do these tests, which are easily nowadays possible. So there are epigenetic nutrients like green tea, broccoli, sprouts, soybeans, grapes. These are all the very positive foods which create positive. They reverse the aberrant epigenetic profiles. For example, in green tea there is EGCG or apellogalactin. In soya there is genistein. In apples and onion there are quercetin and flavonol. In turmeric there is curcumin. In grapes there are resveratrol. All are really very good genes which help us. But finally, when we come to now we know that there was genetics, there was epigenetics, but we also know now that there is something called as a microbiome. What is this microbiome? That is a collection of microorganisms which naturally reside on. There are trillions of organisms residing inside us. In fact, we are only 10% of human, that is 90% of our genome is made by this microbiome. And these microbiome, are affected by our lifestyle, the food we eat, and these microbiome in turn, change the gene expressions and act epigenetically in our body. So we are now connecting all this. Again, nowadays it's very easily possible for any person to do his or her microbiome test. Hardly costs something like 5,000 rupees, and you will come to know where you are going wrong, what is wrong with your microbiome, why you are obese, why your immune system is affected, and what can you do, why you get cardiovascular problems, and can change it to the better environment. So now it's time that we acted on this information that we have, rather than just talking about this food and that food and all that. I think we have to go deep into it a little, which is now not at all difficult. So epigenetics plays a huge role in our health, as well as fetal, neonatal, and maternal well-being. Our ancient culture recognized this importance and attributed due significance to good nutrition and emotional well-being, especially of the pregnant women. The modern science is now able to pinpoint the genetic and especially epigenetic causes behind these traditions. So you are what you eat. The importance of this maxim we are discovering again through the link of diet and epigenetics. And that's why with new knowledge, we have to heed to this. Let's start doing this simple test and improve our health, improve our aging process, and improve our pregnancy outcomes in our patients. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sanjay Gupte. That was a brilliant presentation. And I can say one thing, that now if we come to know about all this, so it's easy to blame the genetics and the genes and the epigenetics, that oh, I can't help it, I have a sweet tooth, so that is the fault of the epigenetics. But that was a brilliant talk, Dr. Sanjay. You kept us mesmerized. And now I think we would like to move on to the next talk, and I believe Dr. Jayam, you are coming on next.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I would like to introduce Dr. Jayam Kanan, whom I think everyone knows is a very dynamic past vice president of FOGSI, and she has been she's emeritus professor, Tamil Nadu MGR Medical University, and she's got the.
That is more than enough for me. Professor,
okay, fine. Now we would anyway love to hear you, Dr. Jayam, speaking on maternal nutrition.
Yes. After the great talk by Sanjay Gupte on epigenetics and nutritional problems, let me take you on to the maternal nutrition and a couple of important areas where this has become very, very important. We all know it is not only the diet, it is also the plate, which is very, very important. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Yeah. The plate is also very important. Don't shrink your plate. Don't expand your plate. Please be comfortable with a 10-inch plate also.
I don't have to do it.
Why screen caring?
You have to go to the first slide, madam. This was last.
Oh, my God.
Go to the first slide.
Okay, sorry. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the plate is also very, very important for us. Be like a bee is a very, very happy news, but you can't be a queen bee. You have to be a worker bee always, because the queen bee has got a big abdomen and it is very big in its size. We can't be like that. Of course, drone is something which is not valuable. Be like a bee. Why this is told is, if the queen bee takes royal jelly, which is very nutritious, and if it takes for 3 to 6 days, any worker G can become a queen G. Understand? So just eating more can make you also, and make rich food also make you bad. What we require after delivery is a big physical growth, a big brain growth, immune system, and make your stomach, which is just used to a liquid milk, to be used to anything hard that you can munch and eat. We, as Gupta said, folic acid, even prior to conception, is very important. Countries like India require vitamin D in all setups, iron, iodine, omega-3 fatty acids, calcium and vitamin B12, especially in Asia. The key challenges during pregnancy has been said to be the nutrition before pregnancy decides the early embryo and placenta. Once a placenta is defectively formed, you cannot prevent a pregnancy loss, fetal growth restriction, and toxemias of pregnancy, and IUGR and stillbirth also. So the total food intake, we all think that we have to take for 2. It is not for 2. Think for 2, but work for 1 properly. The basal metabolic rate almost remains unchanged in the first trimester, maybe for 5%, but goes well to 12% the second and third trimester. And it is mainly in the form of the body fluid, tissue fluid, and blood volume. The calories required in the first trimester are no more extras. Second trimester, maybe 340, third trimester, 450. Yeah, 340 kilograms, I mean in a South Indian diet, just 4 idlis with a little cup of sambar is more than enough. Proteins, of course, know very well. Carbohydrate has to be restricted. Folate, B12, iron, everything has been noted. Iron is going to be discussed very much. I am not going to talk about it. But still in 1988, what we have been told is sure. And this continues even today, not more than 30 milligram of iron. And weight-wise, underweight probably can go around 15 kg. Normal weight around 10 to 12 kg. Just BMI is more than 23 to 28, just 78 kg. And in obese, never more than 7 kg. Women should not restrict her diet towards the end of the pregnancy, because that is the time when the baby is rapidly growing, as it has been pointed out by Curious. All the slides are available in Curious. The maternal undernutrition anemia, in spite of all our talks, continue to be there, even in the present day, 42% globally, which is going to be talked by somebody else. The fetal stunting is one thing which is very, very important, especially in our Indian scenario. The nutrition programs always say, you have a small child before birth so that you deliver normally, and after delivery, you can hike up your diet so that you can make your baby chubby and fatty. But kindly note, 50% of growth failure come from the poor nutrition of the mother in utero and in pregnancy and pre-pregnancy. What is unhealthy food is irregular meal and craving for sweet snacks, high-fat foods, and processed food. No more raw seafood, processed meats, and alcohol. Probably still in our country, it is coming up a lot. Undercooked and cured meats also not allowed. Presently, epigenetics has been talked well by Gupta. American Heart Association has come out with saying mitral valve prolapse is associated with magnesium deficiency. So please look at it so that we avoid this problem, which is now and then being picked up in our pregnant women. Now let me look at a couple of specific scenarios. First is diabetes. We all say about diabetes, what to eat, this, that, and all has been very clearly said. And we have to take morning, breakfast, snack, all that lunch, dinner, and even bedtime snack is very particularly important in diabetic diet. The bedtime snack is mainly to avoid the hypoglycemia in the early morning hours. It is called the Somogi effect. And that should not be another food of rice or anything. It should be nuts, sprouts, whole grain, and sesame. And all this diet should be low glycemic and low glucose load also. That takes you to the question of what is glycemic index and glucose glycemic load. It is all known to everybody. If you compare a food with a standard food, is a glycemic index. That means if I take sugar about 20 grams, my blood sugar will rise up in the next 10 minutes very high. Whereas the same 20 grams, I take an apple, it will not rise. That is what is called glycemic index of a diet. The glycemic load is referred to the 100 grams of the diet, and it is always referred to 1 gram per unit of glucose. Low glycemic index and load is very, very important. Please avoid food like potato, sugar, cornflakes, and white bread if supposing you want to be healthy in a diabetic pregnancy. This chart is available in all these things. The green automatically shows the low glycemic index and the red shows the high glycemic index, not to speak of the ice creams and other things. We already know what is good food and bad food. All our Dunkin's donuts with the pastas, pizzas, ice cream, candies, all these things are very bad. Please go back to our Indian traditional food of rice, vegetables, and that too rice which is brown rice. We always take it as not a regular or raw rice. And even potato, sweet potato is better than the ordinary potato. And pumpkins are very good. Green leafy vegetables are just easy. What is all this meant? Keep your blood sugar fasting below 90, postprandial 120 milligrams if you are on a proper diabetic care during pregnancy. It is not only diet, it is all the exercise also which has to be kept properly so that you are better off in these things. Moving on to the next one. From this, you can find that I am talking about blood pressure. The blood pressure, we know well, essential fatty acids are the ones which help to fight hypertension. And these are the ones which have to be kept. And diet with calcium and magnesium is very, very important for us. And this journal has given very clearly in 2021 about the calcium, vitamin D, folic acid, magnesium, zinc, and other things which are required for a hypertensive disorder. Gestos is score 3 to keep it without going in for preeclampsia and eclampsia. And Fernandez Hospital is one which has come out with a very good diet program of what to eat, what not to eat for a diabetic patients. And it has made very clear 6 to 8 glasses into 300 ml water is a must in a patient who is expected to have a high gestosis score. To be restricted in pregnancy is table salt. Please use the regular salt. Don't use pickles, saturated fatty acids, and other ghee, butter, dalda, especially dalda, margarine, mayonnaise are very bad in this patient. A sample menu is also given by this Fernandez Hospital. And if you really want to prevent pregnancy-induced hypertension, be careful with your calcium, folic acid, vitamin B6, and bananas, which are rich in potatoes, and avocados also has been tested. What promotes blood pressure in pregnancy is high sodium diet, alcohol, and high protein diet, as it has been affirmed by Journal of Family Medical Care also. And diet which promote high blood pressure, again I reiterate, sodium-rich diet, alcohol, protein-rich diet, and processed meat. Nuts in pregnancy have been very much talked about. People are very crazy of taking almonds and everything. We have been talking about peanuts, and some time ago, 2 decades ago, American Journal frowned at peanuts and said it is not good. But however, now it is proved that peanuts are equivalent to these almonds. DASH diet is one thing which has been advised in to stop hypertension. But this DASH diet, can it be continued in pregnancy is a question, because the utrovascular function or gestational hypertension disorders have not been well studied with the DASH diet. So I will not be able to say about the DASH diet. So also the American Heart Association says we have to do more work on this. Now, twins, here, don't eat more. Eat only when you are hungry and stop when you are not. And the maternal weight gain, which has been looked at as early as 2017, after that I don't find any journals, and it says very clearly the body weight gain per trimester indicative of the fetal growth, not the total weight gain, which is important for us. Twins are on the increase with all our ART programs, but do we have studies on the diet on twins? Even Nutrients 2022 does not say that it has got good, proper meal plan for the twins. So twin pregnancy also remains the same with 300 calories in the first trimester, 340 calories in the second trimester, and 450 calories in the third trimester. You don't eat more. carry to your consulting room. Can our Indian woman, if I say, yeah, bowl full of fruits is enough for you, vegetables is enough for you, will she accept? Will she come back to our clinic? No, but we have to be very careful in counseling these people and give 7 tips to eating healthy pregnancy. Don't miss your breakfast, eat fibers, choose healthy snacks, take prenatal vitamin and iron and folic acid tablets also. Stay away from cheese and lunch meat. So coming back to the plate and the diet, and now I want you to have a plan of this and made down for every day so that your pregnancy is successful for your patients. Thank you very much for your patient here.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jayam. That was a wonderful talk, and we got a very, very good idea about the maternal nutrition. And okay, somebody is asking vitamin B12 deficiency role in infertility. I think we can come to that later. So now I think we'll move on to the next topic and the next speaker. That is Komal Chavan. We all know that.
Dr. Amaya Purandare, ma'am. I think.
Okay, okay. Then Komal is later on.
Yes, ma'am. She'll be exchanging with Jayam, madam.
Yeah.
Okay.
Madam, you have to stop sharing, madam. There,
Yeah, yeah. That's what I'm looking into my screen. I'm not able to look at my screen. Yes, stop share. Thank you, Komal. Thank you, Charmila. Thank you, Vidya. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Amaya, welcome you.
So now we are going to have the opportunity to listen to a very dynamic speaker, and that is Dr. Amaya Purandare. And he's going to, can I have his CV? He's been the Joint Secretary of FOGSI. That's what I know. He's consultant of OBGYN in Purandare Hospital, KG Sumaiya Medical College, and Sir HN Reliance Bhatia Masina, Mumbai, and Mumbai Police Hospital. So we all know that he has been the Joint Secretary of FOGSI. So we invite you, Dr. Amaya, to give your talk on pre and postbiotics in pregnancy.
Thank you, Ranjana ma'am, for those kind words and remembering my tenure as FOGSI Joint Secretary. It was pre-COVID and our life was different. We are in the post-COVID scenario, and microbiology now dominates most of our lives and thinking. I'm going to be talking about pre and probiotics. When the world is talking about the external environment and climate change, it is time as healthcare professionals we think about the entire internal environment and the climate change that is occurring there. So nothing else but the microbiome that Dr. Sanjay Gupta did briefly talk about. I'm going to talk about the prebiotics and postbiotics and how they influence reproductive health and disease. If I'm allowed to share my screen, I will begin with mine. So I begin with words of Sir Alexander Fleming. We all know Sir Alexander Fleming. Sir Alexander Fleming was the inventor of penicillin, and when he received the Nobel Prize for that, he said that medical science has proven time and again that when resources are provided, great progress in the treatment, cure, and prevention of disease occurs. Thankfully, God has made a very strong vaginal police force or a vaginal ecosystem. It is because of the soldiers of the lactobacilli, which are the dominant inhabitants and maintain the vaginal health, and are in fact called as the cornerstone bacilli or the policemen of the vagina. The lactobacillus are of different species. They are the dominant species and they maintain the pH of the vagina. Obviously, when the pH is altered, then the problems of infection and inflammation ranging from vaginosis to sexually transmitted disease and even UTI, pelvic inflammatory disease, and adverse pregnancy outcomes are noted. Now, whenever there is a loss of lactobacilli, there results in an alteration in pH, and this results in clinical symptoms ranging from infection, infertility, and adverse pregnancy outcome. We all know about the vaginal ecosystem. But I'm going to be talking a little bit more on the gut microbiota. The friendly gut is close to the vagina. However, it has an impact on the female reproductive system. These microbiota, if they are the pathogenic type, enter the hematogenous route and then reach the reproductive organs and reproductive tissues, and then start affecting even the natural physiology of the reproductive system, obviously the fertilization process, pregnancy, and even have a strong impact on the outcome of the newborns. So there is a concept of what is called as eubiosis and dysbiosis. Eubiosis is the normal environment, but I'm going to be talking about dysbiosis, where the lactobacillus decrease, the microbial load increases, results in clinical infection. There's tissue destruction from a moderate immune stimulation, which is normal. There occurs a cytokine storm, which we all know has disastrous consequences. From a low diversity flora in the lower genital tract, we have a high diversity flora, and the dominance changes from the lactobacilli into the anaerobic species. This inflammation affects almost all the reproductive tissues and all the organs, and as you can see, even affects normal reproductive function. PCOS has different etiology, but the newest kid on the block is that it's called as a chronic inflammatory disease, which has an endocrinological basis. What we must remember is that they have found that in addition to the high androgens, the high levels of insulin resistance and obesity, there is also a low-grade inflammation which has been demonstrated and has been noted in various clinical studies with an elevation in all these inflammatory mediators, which have been found to be significantly elevated. In this study, which was a comparative study between 39 PCOS patients and 40 healthy people, they found that the vaginal microbiota was different in the PCOS patients, and they went on to conclude that maybe this dysbiosis may participate or contribute in amplifying the PCOS pathology, and hence the treatments targeted to improving the vaginal microbiome or normalizing it seem to be emphasized and are promising. Also in abnormal ovarian pathology, which affects poor oocyte quality and impaired ovulation, microbiota have been implicated. Endometriosis, the dilemmatous disorder, is also now thought to be an inflammatory pathology. There is a disruption in the gut dysbiosis, which affects endometrial dysbiosis, and it causes inflammation, hyperplasia, obesity and the metabolic syndrome, and even endometrial cancer in this recent paper, as recent as last year. Pelvic inflammatory disease is all because of the presence of infection and the body's inflammatory response to tackle it, but an abnormal genital microenvironment facilitates these pathogens to exert their effects, amplify the effects, and leading to severe destruction and disability of the reproductive tissues, which can cause obviously the dreaded ectopic pregnancy, TO abscesses, peritonitis, and even sepsis. IVF outcomes have also been adversely affected by dysbiosis. And this is because, again, not only are the endometrial environment becoming less conducive or more hostile, but even the production of anti-sperm antibodies have found to be greater in patients with dysbiosis, resulting in lower implantation rates, increased miscarriage rates, decreased number of take-home babies, and all this has a direct negative impact. But on the other hand, studies have also shown if there is a lactobacillus dominant microbiota, the IVF outcomes are better. When the woman conceives but she has dysbiosis, we all know there is a direct correlation between PPROM, chorioamnionitis, placental infection and inflammation, also ectopic pregnancy, bacterial vaginitis in pregnancy, resulting in recurrent miscarriage and ascending infection, even thought to be causing recurrent implantation failure. In preterm birth, the inflammation dysbiosis connect has been well established, and obviously this inflammation results in the release of prostaglandins, which weaken the membranes, resulting in not just uterine contraction, but cervical remodeling, and this causes membrane activation, finally ends up with labor. So friends, we need to relook at vaginal and genital infections and pathologies. We need to reassure our patients, we need to re-diagnose, we need to retreat at times, but the moral of the story is that restoration to normal environment and rejuvenation of the tissues is absolutely essential. The mainstay of infections, treating infections, is antibiotics. We use them very frequently, and thankfully they are very effective. But the principle is that in recurrent vaginitis or in severe vaginitis, we have to use a multi-pronged attack using an antifungal. Then we generally use metronidazole, and moreover, we use broad spectrum antibiotics for longer periods of time. What we must remember, however, that antibiotics are not always the answer. Using antibiotics inappropriately or incorrectly can lead to resistance. They do not restore the vaginal ecosystem. Definitely they kill the bacilli, but they kill good bacilli as well at times, and this results in a greater chance of a recurrence as well as the formation of a biofilm. So let's look at antibiotics versus probiotics in a true critique. As I told you, antibiotics, if used incorrectly, can damage the commensal microflora, can cause resistance and have significant side effects. On the other hand, probiotics, if used in adjunction to the antibiotics, are friendly to the environment and result in restoration of the commensal microflora. Probiotics is a concept which is endorsed by the World Health Organization. It defines them as a live microorganism which, when administered in adequate amounts, confer a health benefit. It survives the stomach and bile, adheres to the intestinal lining, grows and establishes temporary resistance in the intestine, and imparts health benefits. This is as far as oral probiotics are concerned. Now we also have vaginal probiotics, and I'll talk about them in the later part of my lecture. So these are the various uses of probiotics for health, to improve health, ranging from diarrhea to irritable bowel syndrome, to dermatitis, to bacterial vaginosis, and of course, urinary tract infection. The mechanisms include inhibition of adhesion, immunomodulation, production of antimicrobial substances, modification of the toxin and its receptors, competition for nutrients, reduction in bacterial translocation, and anti-inflammatory signaling within the epithelium. The oral probiotics are consumed orally. The time required to affect vaginal health is longer because it requires it to reach the lower end of the GI tract, and then there occurs a migration or translocation. Hence, less number of lactobacilli may reach the vaginal tract as compared to the vaginal probiotics, which are advantageous and are the new kids on the block that can act directly in the region of the vagina, don't require migration. Less time, therefore, is needed for producing a positive health impact, and there are higher concentrations. They are available as tablets which contain about 10⁹ viable live lactobacilli. 3 main species are used and have to be stored, the vaginal probiotics, in the refrigerator between 2 to 8 degrees centigrade. They have direct and indirect actions. They produce lactic acid and bacteriocins, and therefore lower the pH, kill the pathogens, form a physical barrier against pathogen adhesion, and they stimulate the host defense mechanism to fight against the pathogens. Why do we use these 3 strains? Because we use the best of all of them. So some of them primarily produce more hydrogen peroxide, some help in adhesion, some help in arginine deaminase activity, some help in co-aggregation. All of them help symbiotically to help fight the infection. In addition to fighting the common infections, they also help in prevention of STDs and also have a positive effect on sperm vitality. However, what we need to understand is that, are they really clinically beneficial? So what does the clinical evidence say? In this study, which looked at patients for bacterial vaginosis, If used along with metronidazole, they found that the recurrence rates were lesser, the cure rates were longer, and they maintained the normal vaginal flora for longer periods of time. The other infection that we commonly encountered is vaginal candidiasis. And in vaginal candidiasis, in this study, they also found the cure rate was much higher, and even the recurrence, which is at times very challenging in candidiasis, this regime of using probiotics was found to be useful. Can these probiotics be used in pregnancy? In this study published in 2012, which was the first study which looked at vaginal probiotics, they found that they have a positive effect as far as treating the infection, preventing the infection, and favorable outcomes in pregnancy and delivery. What about infertility? I already said that a disturbed vaginal flora results in reproductive failure, adverse pregnancy outcomes, early pregnancy loss. It's bad for the IVF patients because it leads to poorer outcomes. And therefore, in this first paper in the Reproductive Biomed online thing, they proposed that lactobacilli should be given routinely to patients undergoing IVF cycles. Subsequent research has shown that yes, there may be a truth in this hypothesis, because they found that in those women who did not have adequate lactobacilli, there was decrease in implantation, decrease in pregnancy rate, and increase in poorer outcomes. On the other hand, in close to 100 patients who had antibiotics and probiotics also given to them, they found that if the endometrial flora is dominated by lactobacilli, it helps directly in improving implantation rates. So here in this study of 130 patients, it showed positive outcome if there was a normal flora and a negative outcome if there was an abnormal flora. What about sperm motility and vitality? And it was found that if the probiotic is used in correct amount, it prevents sperm lipid peroxidation and preserves the vitality and the motility of the sperm, as per the Italian study. Various treatment options have been given. The oral ones last for about 2 months, but the vaginal ones have a shorter duration, ranging from a week to a fortnight, and therefore is an added advantage of the vaginal probiotics. So 2 main uses: one, prevention of common vaginal infections, prevention of recurrent UTIs, and improving the broader goal of reproductive health in order to improve fertilization and prevent preterm birth. Has to be used intravaginally for 8 days, preferably from the 8th day of menstruation, for 3 months, at bedtime, in a clean, hygienic way. Don't crush or break the tablet, and insert the tablet inside the vagina with the middle finger while lying in the recumbent position. Can be used in pregnancy at bedtime for 8 days, followed by the same regimen every 4th week till the end of pregnancy. As far as IVF cycles, you give it for 8 days, starting 8 days before the oocyte retrieval, followed by a daily intravaginal dose at bedtime for 8 days, starting 1 day after the embryo transfer. And then hopefully the pregnancy is successful and you continue the regimen like you do in pregnancy, which I detailed just earlier. Can we go beyond probiotics? Is there something beyond? Yes, there is a new kid on the block, which is lactoferrin. Lactoferrin is a substance which has got anti-inflammatory effects, antioxidant effects, helps in gut growth and maturation, helps in development of beneficial microbiota, and has antimicrobial properties as well. So multiple benefits of this, and it molds the intestinal microbiome and also promotes lactobacilli and bifidobacteria. So it's very good as an immunological modulator, and it has been shown in these recent papers that it helps in tilting the balance of the immunological change towards a pro-pregnancy balance, and hence helps in reducing the risk of probable miscarriage. Here you can see is the concept where the lactobacilli and lactoferrin interplay with each other and act positively towards restoring the vaginal environment to a a normal healthy microbiota. So they work hand in hand. So it's protective. It helps most effectively to dampen in the inflammatory processes, help in inhibiting adhesion, appear complementary to each other, and have close anti-inflammatory action. In this paper, they showed that it has a direct effect on endometrial microbiome, and they found that if lactoferrin was given, it was effective against bacterial vaginosis and led to pregnancy and full-term birth in those patients with a previous preterm birth. This study from Italy showed that it was useful in pregnancy and it had a direct positive effect on preterm delivery. And this study from Japan showed that in patients of refractory recurrent vaginitis, which led to recurring preterm delivery, the use of this agent helped in her achieving a successful pregnancy outcome. What about fructooligosaccharides? Fructooligosaccharides are the other partners. They are prebiotic. They are non-digestible polysaccharides which promote the growth of beneficial bacteria. They are available naturally in herbal plants like onion, garlic, asparagus, banana, etc. They improve dysbiosis by enhancing the growth of the bifidobacteria. They are basically the substrate, the nutrition, okay, to help in the growth of normal bacteria. They also are known to decrease the growth of potential pathogens and enhance the immune system. And this has been shown in the vaginal ecosystem where they symbiotically act to optimize, maintain, and restore the natural microbiota of the vagina. This is generally what is available in commercially as a combination of probiotics with lactoferrin and has to be used as a one capsule daily. But are all these really safe? Because you're introducing bacteria into the body. Probiotics are mostly considered safe. Lactobacilli species utility is related to their GRAS status. In 2011, the paper published showed that probiotics do not pose any serious safety concern for pregnancy and lactating women. Systemic absorption is rare when used in healthy individuals, and current literature does not indicate any increase in adverse pregnancy outcome. Bovine lactoferrin, which is generally the commercially or pharmacologically used lactoferrin, is a safe substance as recommended by FDA USA, and therefore these can be safely used to treat our patients. So to summarize, the combination of lactoferrin and lactobacillus are pivotal components in the first-line defense in the female mucosal genital tract. They are protective in nature against various microbial infections. But beyond that, they also are effective in the natural mechanism to be anti-inflammatory in nature. Lactoferrin, as I said, is antimicrobial, anti-inflammatory, and immunomodulator. It complements the pre and probiotics for modulatory action on the gut microbiome. Probiotics help to restore and maintain normal gut and the genitourinary flora, and the prebiotics help the probiotics to promote the beneficial bacteria or microbiota. So combination has been shown clinically to benefit in various reproductive conditions like PCOS, endometriosis, PID, vulvovaginal infections, genitourinary infections, pregnancy, preterm labor, and IVF. To conclude, in reproductive infections, early and precise diagnosis are the key to effective and complete cure. We need to use simple technology to make it cost effective. Inappropriate and overuse of antibiotics will lead to resistance. Restoration of physiology results in the return of the healthy state, and probiotics and prebiotics will help in restoration of microflora and prevent recurrence. I leave you with lines of Deepak Chopra. We are well on our way of a unified theory of biology that will merge body and environment, brain and mind, and genome and the microbiome. To us, this is the most exciting and potentially rewarding field that is opened up in modern medicine. Thank you so much. Reproductive health is no option, exception. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ameya. That was a very enlightening talk. And we have some questions for you. People want to know what are the commercially available vaginal probiotics.
So I think this is an academic forum. We'll not go to the commercial this thing, but most of the pharmacological companies in India have come up with vaginal
Yeah.
thing.
So
I think,
there are people who are asking you for some trade names.
yeah. So Evanu is one of them.
Yeah.
Combinom is one of them. So these are the two vaginal probiotics that I'm aware.
Okay. So that was a wonderful talk, Dr. Ameya. And I think Dr. Charmila, should we move forwards now because there are no further questions.
Okay, ma'am. If you want, you can. If you want, you can discuss with the speakers for 5 to 10 minutes, or we'll move on to the next talk.
Charmila is looking very serious.
She's the series coordinator, na?
Ma'am, if you want, sir is there and Ameya is there. And,
Yeah.
if you want to discuss with them for 5 to 10 minutes, it's okay, or you'll move on to the next talk.
Dr.
Sure,
Sanjay, I was really mesmerized by your talk. And, you know, it becomes so interesting to know these things. And really, we everyone should be very well aware of the epigenetics, because we don't know exactly what we are having and how much it can actually have an adverse effect on us.
Right.
So the points were very well taken, I think.
One thing, you know, Ameya gave a beautiful talk on, you know, probiotics and prebiotics. I think what is important also to know that we need to know what is the diversity in microbiome. What is important is not all lactobacilli are, you know, strains are good lactobacilli strain.
Yeah.
There can be some, you know, there are harmful strains of lactobacilli also. So whenever choosing a, you know, a probiotic, one has to be very sure that we are choosing a right one that tells us how many live, you know, bacteria are there, which strain is there, and, you know, that what is the life of these bacteria, whether in given condition they are going to remain effective. Because if you use a wrong you know, probiotic, then it can do harm also. So it's very important to study these further. We are actually, you know, in doing study now on, you know, collecting samples of vaginal samples of microbiota of all the pregnant women, and we have found some interesting, you know, data on it, which we'll be publishing, especially as Ameya pointed out. You know, we actually grouped infertile and fertile male semen. You know, fertile male from donors, and infertile where so-called unexplained infertility was there, you know, in these patients. And we have found there is a vast difference between microbiota of, you know, this fertile and infertile male semen. So I think that's the aspect that we have never thought of. You know, we used to do pyospermia and all those things that, you know, we used to think about, but there is a huge difference in those. So these microbiome tests are easily possible now. They don't cost much also. Even gut microbiome is possible. There are genetic tests done by 16S rRNA shotgun sequencing. And I think we should now learn about these tests and keep on doing these more and more for the benefit of our patients. And then we'll come to know exactly, you know, what's going wrong. But again, I want to caution that not all the probiotics that are there, you know, outside, if you study, because especially, you know, there is no pharmacological standard or control as yet, because these are so, you know, only, you know, food supplements and not as pharmaceuticals. And that's why we have to be aware of this before we start using them left and right. And any probiotic we need to study. Prebiotics are better. As you know, Ameya said, prebiotics are something that are practically food items which get converted into probiotics, and all, to make it short, you know, all, you know, fermented foods are good. You know, so, you know, that's something that, like curds, somebody is just
Yes.
you know, idli, then kimchi and all those, you know, so generally those are good probiotics.
That is a great information, sir. And
I just want to make one or two points, if I'm allowed.
yes, yes,
Please.
Ameya.
So what we need to remember is that for gut infections, there is a different spectra of probiotics that are clinically effective. And for GU infections, there's a different spectra of probiotics. Or So for GU, we will concentrate more on lactobacilli and E. coli, etc. But for GI, it will be more of the Clossy group, etc. So we all know that we use enterogermina in pediatric diarrhea, etc., which is mainly dominant different kind of probiotics, while in GU infections, it's mainly the lactobacilli and its added species. Just one more point, I'd like to personally thank Dr. Vidya Thobi for inviting me to speak here. She said, no, I want you to speak on pre and probiotic.
Yes.
I think it's going to change our outlook in vaginal and reproductive health. So thank you, madam, once again, and thank you to Dr. Lakshmi Shrikande and all the ICOG office bearers and council members for inviting.
Thank you. It was a very wonderful session, and there are a lot many queries. I think personally you can just in that chat box you can answer if you can, because it will be time consuming if each questions are answered here. Isn't it, Charmila?
Yes, ma'am. I think the next session can start.
Yeah, I think we should start.
All the speakers kept to the time, so it was a well-coordinated session.
But for the vaginal infections, like orally also, we are taking so many of these, like combinomes and all that.
Yes.
So I think, is it as effective vaginally?
3 benefits: more concentration, less duration of therapy, and more quicker results. Restoration occurs much quickly because the quantity of lactobacilli reaching via migration and via direct is almost 10 to 15 times greater.
True. So I think we'll go on to the next one. And does chewing the food more times help, Dr. Sanjay?
Yes, it would, because again there are microbiota in the oral cavity also.
Saliva.
Okay.
Yeah, and apart from what we've been taught about, digestion and saliva and all that.
Yeah. So now we move on to the next session, and opening batsman in this is a very dynamic Dr. Suchitra Pandit, ma'am. She has been the past president of FOGSI, and she is chairperson AICC RCOG, president ISOPAP. She's been president FOGSI representative to AOFOG, and president MOGS. And now I invite you, Dr. Suchitra Pandit, to give a talk on adolescent nutrition. As we all know, you have done so much work on adolescents. So this must be your, signature talk on adolescent nutrition.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Dr. Ranjana and Dr. Charmila for chairing the session. And thank you to Dr. Vidya Thobi for giving me this opportunity to speak for the ICOG course. And what I wanted to just check is, can I share screen and then?
Yeah, please do.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
yes,
please
do. Yes.
So I'm sharing screen, and is my presentation seen?
It's just coming, ma'am.
It's just coming up, I think. Okay. Yeah,
it's there.
Is it come?
Yes, ma'am. Can you make it full screen, ma'am? Full screen.
Okay, I'll just stop share and I'll do it again once more. Okay, is that full screen now?
Not yet. Yeah, it's there. It's there.
Yeah.
Okay. So here I start, and once again, thanks. This ICOG course is wonderful. I just was reading all this, seeing all the speakers, and excellent selection of topics, Dr. Vidya. And I'm sure that I hope I will be able to do justice to this particular topic, adolescent nutrition. And first of all, we all know what adolescence is. It is a period between the childhood and adulthood. And we have it divided in 3 phases: early adolescence, 10 to 14, late adolescence, 15 to 19, and youth is 15 to 24, and young adulthood is 20 to 54. And considering that India is the youngest country, 1/3 of our population is actually under the age of 24 years, and 90% of young people are living in the low and the middle income group. So why is nutrition so important for adolescents? One is because they need more nutrients than adults, because they gain at least 40% of their adult weight and 15% of their adult height during this period. Inadequate intake can lead to delayed sexual development and a slower linear growth. And adolescence is a time of transition. And this is also a time when habits are formed and they persist into adult life. So good habits like eating healthy, doing exercises are likely to bring much more benefits, including an improved performance in school. So nutritional habits are important because today you see the younger people are taking a very high amount of processed energy dense foods, and therefore the obesity concept today is also very, very high. High BMI, there's iron deficiency amongst the top 20 factors for the disability adjusted life years worldwide. And all these factors pose risk for the later non-communicable diseases, which are responsible for 2 of every 3 deaths globally. So, as I've said before, adolescence is a significant period for physical growth and sexual maturation. And how is nutrition very important? Because growth retardation is one of the most important health concerns for an adolescent and, of course, their parents as well as the healthcare workers. So inadequate nutritional intake during the adolescence can have serious consequences throughout the reproductive years and beyond. It can impair not just the work capacity, but also the productivity of the adolescent boys and girls in their later years. And an undernourished girl is at the risk of developing complications during pregnancy, and the chances of giving birth to a low birth weight baby increases, thus perpetuating the vicious cycle of malnutrition and ill health. So then what are the important components of food that we are talking about? Obviously, we all know it's protein, fats, carbs, minerals, and vitamins, which perform different functions. And proteins, of course, are very, very important because they're required for bodybuilding. They help in repair and maintenance of body tissues. Fat are the high energy foods and a source of energy. And they also make food much more palatable. And we all love our vada paos and our bhajiyas, but they also provide the fat soluble vitamins. Carbohydrates form the major components of most diets and the main source of energy. But remember, vitamins and minerals are required in small quantities. They do not yield energy, but they enable the body to use other nutrients and also play an important role in growth, repair, and regulation of vital body functions. And as you're growing older, the requirements for iron and calcium increase, and particularly the importance of iron and calcium in the early adulthood is very, very important because there is a rapid increase in the lean body mass and skeletal growth. Zinc is very important because of its role in growth and sexual maturation, and some sources of zinc are seen in grains, nuts, meat, cheese, and milk. So then we always have heard about the balanced diet. What is this balanced diet? It is a blend of 5 basic food groups: the carbs, the proteins, the fats, vitamins, and minerals, and they have to be in the required amounts and proportions so that they maintain the health and general well-being. Many times the vegetarian diets are having more of carbs and the non-vegetarian diets are having more of proteins and fats. So we always believe that there should be a balanced diet. And today, even vegetarian proteins, you're seeing them in lentils, sprouts, ragi, soya, and non-veg, of course, is there in meat, fish, poultry, eggs, and different kinds of meats that are available. Plenty of green vegetables and easily available fruits and dairy products are also important, like milk, cheese, yogurt. But it is important to have these foods in the right mix every day. And I want to emphasize the point of drinking adequate water. Many of young people just don't have water at all, just one glass and that's it. So we have to encourage them. Water is a natural elixir of life. So they must be able to have adequate amount of water. Again, we need micronutrients, as I mentioned before, because cognitive growth depends on the right proportion of micronutrients. Like B complex is important for neural communication, and their absence can lead to depression. Similarly, folates, thiamines are important for all the neural pathways, and deficiency has been linked to an impaired episodic memory and language issues. Iron is important for the oligodendrocyte growth and neurotransmitter production, and definition will definitely affect cognition, memory, social, and motor development. Iodine, again, is an important micronutrient. It is involved in structural development and its absence causes mental retardation. Zinc, I've already mentioned before, is essential. It is found in the forebrain and the hippocampus. And if there is a deficiency, it will lead to impaired attention, learning, memory, and possibly development of neuropsychological disease. So this is again a table chart. I won't go into details of this, but this is what tells us exactly what should be the requirement in a male as compared to a female. The energy requirements of a male are slightly more than a female, apart from, the pregnancy time when the woman needs more of proteins, calcium, iron, and energy. And then you have the right balance of all the micronutrients. So this is what that healthy balanced plate looks like. Fruits and vegetables, bread, rice, potatoes, pasta. It may not be all of them, but some of them. Then the meat, fish, egg, beans, the food and the drinks. And here again, I'd like to say water or non-aerated drinks are much more better rather than just having pasteurized drinks or colas, and then milk and dairy products. And in addition, they should choose foods that are low in salt and limit foods that contain a lot of fat or sugar. So what are the factors then actually affect the nutrition of adolescents? Most important is the family atmosphere and the community that realizes that nutrition in adolescence is an important factor. Sometimes there are socioeconomic issues. There is inequitable distribution of food because of the gender problems, poor dietary intake of food and vegetables rich in iron, poor availability of iron in the diet, hookworm infestation, diseases like malaria, bad cooking habits, overboiling the vegetables and straining the water, removing the husk from the wheat, or eating polished rice and straining the rice water. Again, perpetuation of the vicious cycle of malnutrition and infection, which might begin even before birth, may have serious consequences for the girl child. So what are the observations? Gender norms are more harmful than beneficial with regards to nutrition and physical activity. Girls actually are exposed to the culture of over dieting and unhealthy weights losses more than the boys, and many believe that exercise is unfeminine and that athletic women are masculine. So this is a mindset in the society, and this has to be removed. Qualities encouraged in sports, strength, dominance, all these should not be taken as unfeminine, and girls should be able to prioritize. Thanks to Mary Com, she's prioritized so many of the sports, and thanks to so many of our women athletes and players, badminton players and tennis players who have popularized sports amongst the girls. Again, girls consume less dairy than recommended because they think it causes weight gain, and parents don't encourage girls to consume dairy. And although the media, the parents and the peers can foster negative images, they can also help to introduce healthier approaches to weight control and nutrition. So it's important to educate the community. So how would you do it? Food selection basically in the youngsters is basically based on availability, convenience, and time rather than the food value. And the peer group, the mass media, the prevalent body image is so very, it affects, and the kids are very much impressed by this. Personal self-esteem and body image guide to the eating behaviors. Missing meals and snacking, very, very common. Fast food joints patronized by adolescents. They spoil the appetite. So when there's a dinner laid out on the table at home, they don't want to eat. And again, if you have the right diet, it will help to achieve the rapid growth and full growth potential, timely sexual maturation, and will help the calcium deposition in the bones and help in achieving the normal growth strength. So it's important to establish good eating habits, not just at adolescence, but even before that. It sets the tone for a lifetime of healthy eating and prevents obesity, osteoporosis, and diabetes in later life. So young girls are important from the point of nutrition, but you have to pay special attention, particularly to the underprivileged girls, because then they suffer from anemia. But even the overprivileged or the better privileged girls do have the problem of anemia because of the wrong eating habits. Again, if there is any damage to the body physiology during adolescence, which requires extra nutritional demands for the boys and the girls, then in those situations, the pregnancy onsets can also be detrimental. And if unfortunately there is a teenage pregnancy, these undernourished girls are likely to deliver low birth weight babies, and due to the poor lactation, the infant that they produce may not be able to gain weight, and the vicious cycle continues. So therefore, if there is a teenage pregnancy, we remember we have to give them support all through the times. And again, I'd like to say over here that there are nutritional anemias which are arising very, very common in India. Iron deficiency in the diet leads to nutritional anemia. And again, the boys gain lean body mass at a faster rate than the girls, but they also need iron. So iron is required for both natural foods like green leafy vegetables, citrus fruits, amla, all those are rich in vitamin C. But for iron, we have to have a diet rich in green leafy vegetables. And there are many school programs which have started supplementing and giving intermittent iron therapy to the girls. We all know that because of anemia, gradually over a period of time, there is a reduced capacity to do work, decreased productivity. And we all have been saying that we must get rid of anemia so that when our girls reach the age of reproductive age, they should have a good surplus of iron and a good iron ferritin store. And again, iron deficiency, we know all these causes, but I'll just highlight a few: inadequate iron intake and wrong eating habits, infrequent eating and restricted eating, and parasitic infection. And today on the rise is substance abuse, particularly tobacco, in the younger boys from the underprivileged sectors. And these again impair the iron absorption. And the typical signs are fatigue, shortness of breath, taste disturbances, restless leg syndrome, pallor, angular stomatitis, just lack of interest in life. And we must be able to pick this up. And remember, all these will lead to a decreased school performance, impaired cognitive function. And because of this, if these girls future, it can lead to a lot of pregnancy complications. And therefore, we have to look at this very, very seriously. So let's now start talking about a proper diet, which is rich in a balanced diet, having iron supplementation. We are talking about encouraging adolescents, increasing their awareness in schools. There are school healthy meals which are given. And again, very importantly, is periodic deworming. And friends, don't forget to rule out the hemoglobinopathies, because certain belts, thalassemias and sickle cell anemias are also very, very common. And coming to the last two slides, inadequate nutrition. Once more, I'd like to say that retard the growth and the full height potential which should be reached in the age of adolescence is not reached, and that poor adolescent may remain stunted and have a negative body image. And this poor nutrition again impairs the work capacity. I've already talked about the zinc deficiencies and the iodine deficiencies. And this is the program laid down by the government, the iron folic acid supplementation, which is distributed through the PHCs, and they're done through the ASHA workers, and through the, the families are also educated. So apart from pregnant and lactating women, we are looking at the younger children and the younger in here, not just girls, but it's also the girls and boys. Just a few more slides. Being overweight is also a problem in India because of the wrong eating habits, and obesity again is on the rise. So obesity is a state in which there is a generalized accumulation of excess fat in the adipose tissue. And today, India is considered as the capital of diabetes. Why is that? Because of the metabolic syndrome. And the main responsible factor is eating irregularly, junk food eating, inactive lifestyles, genetic and family history, PCOS, which is on the rise, substance abuse, environmental causes, and then of course, psychological. And excess of TV usages for the kids, lack of physical activity, continuously on the computers, eating those sweetened beverages, skipping breakfast, all these are going to cause the adolescent to become overweight and later on going into an obesity. So we as parents, as guardians, as doctors should teach our parents and increase the awareness for these children. And of course, if somebody wants to lose weight, it should never be a crash diet, systematic, supervised diet, timely eating, plenty of fruits, nuts, vegetables, physical activity. It's more important to be fit than look slim, and regular follow-up for counseling and increase awareness for being physically fit. And I don't need to talk about the BMI, we know about it, but a lot of young children today are obese, and therefore the parents have to really watch out. And the best way is counsel them, motivate them, talk to them about the diets. Don't say, don't eat this, but eat this in a smaller amount. So calorie restriction, physical exercise helps a lot, and a behavioral modification. And here it is not just the peer group, but even speaking to the family, because sometimes the families force the children to have high calorie dense food. And of course, when not possible to reduce just with the diet and exercises, there are medications like insulin sensitizers. We don't really want to encourage bariatric surgery in these young people, but there are kids of 16 and 18 who've undergone bariatric surgery when they've touched a weight of 150 kilos. So nutrition, in this last few slides, nutrition is important because we need to encourage our children to eat well. We need to have some kind of a behavioral therapy if these young children, if these young girls fall pregnant, to have a standard antenatal care, balanced diet of protein, carbs, and fat, iron and micronutrient supplementation, and prevent the preterm births. But I would say let's encourage reproductive health awareness in young children, and at the same time discourage families from getting their girls married off at 16 and 17 years of age, because once they get married, then there's a pressure from the family to produce children. So a lot of this data, I've got it from the Rashtriya Kishore Swasthya Karyakram, as well as this is the resource book and a number of books, which the articles by WHO. And I'd like to say that nutrition is important. We talk of health, we talk of assistance, we talk of tips, guidance, but what is most important is support. Let's support our young children to have that ideal nutrition, so then we don't have to worry about our future. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Suchitra. That was a beautiful talk, and it brings back all the memories of the patients, the adolescent girls who are coming in. They're all staying in hostel. They are preparing for some or the other entrance. They are so fat, and then you keep on telling them, but then they say that the hostel food is so bad, so we just order from Zomato and then they eat all sorts of unhealthy food. Then yes, I keep on explaining to them and then tell them that, okay, you keep one day as your cheat day, in which you can have a little bit of whatever you want to eat. And another thing I was remembering is the Anemia Mukt Bharat flagship program of our government, in which they are supplementing weekly iron folic acid supplements. And that is actually combated anemia, I think, to a quite a big extent, because the role of deworming has also stepped in so well. So that combinedly actually is helping in fighting against this problem. So thank you, Dr. Suchitra, for this illuminating talk.
Right.
And
I'd like to thank Dr. Lakshmi Srikhande. I didn't see her.
Welcome, Suchitra.
And thank you for this wonderful initiative of this certificate course.
Yeah. So now we move on to the next talk, which is by none other than the series convener, Dr. Charmila. We all know her as a very, very academic person. She is Vice President-elect FOGSI 2024, Chairperson Clinical Research Committee of FOGSI 2016 to 18, and of course, at present, the ICOG Governing Council member. So over to you, Dr. Charmila, for your talk on preconception nutrition.
Thank you so much, Ranjana ma'am. I'd like to thank Dr. Lakshmi Srikhande ma'am for the opportunity, as well as Dr. Vidya Dobi. And this talk, already it has been dealt with by Dr. Sanjay Gupte sir, Suchitra madam, and others. But when you want to name it as preconceptional care, first the WHO has named it as periconceptional care. And that is when you provide interventions in a period which extends from 3 months before conception and continues on to 3 months after the conception has happened. And that's the definition by WHO. And when you want to name it as preconception care, it is actually the provision of biomedical, behavioral, and social health interventions, which should be done before the conception occurs and should be aimed at improving the health status of the mother. And we should give a counseling to reduce behaviors and the individual and environmental factors that could contribute to poor maternal and child health outcomes. So what are the interventions? It's health education, promotion, vaccination, family planning, screening for infection, genetic conditions, and all that. But today we'll deal with nutritional supplementation and food fortification. It's extremely important in the preconception period. And why is it important? Because when the mother is poorly nourished, which can be over or undernourishment, it can lead on to short-term and longer-lasting effects in the fetus, and which can lead on into its adulthood. There's also an increased risk of non-communicable disease and obesity through the life course when the mother is not nourished properly in the periconceptional period. And that's because of programming in fetal life. And that has been put up by so many theories. And they've said there's a programming during fetal development and early infancy. And this susceptibility is partially determined by the maternal nutritional status before and during a pregnancy. And that's why nutrition is extremely important for maternal health. Sanjay Gupta sir has already talked on epigenetics, which is the modification of gene function. And these expressions, the metabolic gene expressions which are modified, can be a short-term change or a long-term change. Short-term is usually histone methylation or acetylation, but the long-term DNA silencing can happen because of a DNA methylation. And how does epigenetics cause problems in the baby? When you have an in utero environmental condition that is not conducive to the baby, it can cause epigenetic changes in the fetus that can lead on to permanent alterations to the metabolic system of the baby, and that can lead on to increased susceptibility to chronic diseases as the child becomes older. So suboptimal maternal nutrition will cause changes in gene expression, and these are called nutritional epigenetic changes. And we have to remember, during embryogenesis, there's an extensive epigenetic reprogram which takes place, and suboptimal nutrition definitely plays a key role in these epigenetic changes. There's one theory which is quite popular regarding this developmental origin of health and disease, the DOHD hypothesis, which was put forth by Hales and Barker. And it is said that the origins of adult disease has a starting point at the fetal stage. So any change which happens at the fetal level is going to go on into the adulthood of the child, and that's going to cause non-communicable diseases, which can be quite severe. So in utero, nutritional deprivation or excess, suppose a mother is deprived or she's eating excessively, that can lead on to fetal adaptations of the metabolic pathways, which are crucial for tissue function and survival, which is needed in the postnatal environment. So when there's a maladaptation of the metabolic pathway, that's going to lead on to non-communicable diseases as adults. There's something called a thrifty genotype. That is when there's an early fetal undernutrition, and suppose this baby is fed postnatally with abundance of nutrition, which happens in our growth restricted babies. We have to remember that the response to the intrauterine suboptimal nutrition is irreversible, and that has already caused a partial resetting of the metabolic homeostasis and the endocrine systems. And this partial resetting will cause a down regulation of the growth, and that's called as the thrifty genotype. That is, the body tries to save all the energy into itself and will not let go, and that's going to cause more of NCDs in later life. So the mismatch in the environment can happen, undernutrition in the pre-conception period or the periconceptual period. That is when the mother is having a growth restricted baby, and when there's a postnatal nutritional abundance for these children, there's going to be a partial resetting of the metabolic systems, and that is going to cause increased severity of the program response and makes the baby susceptible to most of the NCDs, which are actually preventable. So there's an association between poor fetal growth, early accelerated postnatal so-called catch-up growth in offspring, and these lead on to later development of NCDs, and this has been proved in several human studies. And the NCDs which this child can suffer from will be obesity, metabolic dysfunctions, insulin sensitivity, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disorders, and renal disorders. And the best example for this was the Dutch famine birth cohort. In this study, they studied the cohort which included 2,400 singletons, which were born alive and at term. They were not preterm babies. They were born in the famine of the Dutch famine of 1943 to 1947. And the birth records of all these children had been kept. And they found out that the prenatal famine exposure had lasting consequences for health in later life of these children. And the effects of famine in this cohort was quite widespread, and it affected the structure and function of many organs and tissues, which resulted in altered behavior and increased risk of chronic degenerative diseases, and led on to an increased mortality. But we have to remember the effects of famine were independent of size at birth. Even if they were normal sized babies without growth restriction, still they suffered from NCDs later on. So the preconceptual nutrition had caused so much of problems in these babies. And that's why the nutritional factor of features of the mother should be looked after even before she conceives. And the other lessons which we learned through other famines was the Nigerian famine of 1967 to 1970, and the adult cohort had an increased rate of hypertension and type 2 diabetes. The Great Leap Forward famine in China showed that the cohort had an increased risk of diabetes, hypertension, and schizophrenia. And the Austrian and Ukrainian famines showed that there was an increased risk of diabetes as these children become adults. What about maternal overnutrition? It can also lead on to increased long-term vulnerability and induce a pathological response. And when there is a pre-pregnancy overweight and obesity in these mothers, it can cause impaired fertility, it can lead on to a preterm birth. There are associated comorbidities and even mortality during pregnancy. The baby is going to suffer from macrosomia. There may be an alteration of the fetus glucose and lipid metabolism even when it's in utero. It will induce changes which will lead on to gestosis later in life. There may be an increased risk of abdominal and generalized obesity across infancy and childhood into adolescence and adulthood, which will lead on to related metabolic disorders and asthma in predisposed children. What about the weight gain during pregnancy? Either low or high birth weight can cause a problem, but there's no guidance from any guideline, any country regarding the amount of weight an obese pregnant women should gain. There's no consensus at all. But we have to remember, with every kg increase in the maternal gestational weight, the likelihood of adult obesity in the child is going to be almost increased by 8%. And that's why gestational weight gain is extremely important. And it's associated also with a maternal increase in obesity after she delivers. It's going to cause neonatal hypoglycemia in the baby. And there's an increased risk of GDM when the mother's gaining excess weight during a pregnancy, and can also lead to the other spectrum. Like you can have a small for gestational age baby and macrosomic infants. And the timing of gestational weight gain is also extremely important. Suppose it is between 0 to week 14 of in utero life, there will be an incremental increase in the offspring adiposity. But when the gestational weight in week 36, it actually led on to an increased risk of cardiovascular disease in these children when they became adults. So what are can you do dietary interventions during pregnancy? They're actually safe and potentially cost effective. It's not like the popular myth that you should not diet during pregnancy. They can have a proper diet plan which is given to them, and they should follow it to prevent GDM, gestational hypertension, preeclampsia, preterm birth, IUDs, and metabolic disorders. Maybe there may be a few cases of extreme weight reduction where the mother is not eating properly, and that can cause an adverse effect, but it's very less when compared to the mothers who are gaining more weight during their pregnancies. And behavioral change programs, which may be dietary or physical activity programs, can always prevent the excessive gestational weight gain, which happens because of overeating by the mother. And there's an increased risk of GDM, and the pre-pregnancy BMI is high in the mother. And also the presence of GDM is going to contribute to either a restricted or an excess fetal growth, fetal adiposity. It's going to predispose the baby to have obesity throughout its life, going to cause an increased risk of impaired glucose tolerance or even type 2 diabetes and other metabolic disorders in the infant. And what about, so even if the mother is not obese, but she's taking a high fat diet and is taking excess energy during a pregnancy, they say it can adversely affect the placental structure and function and may permanently alter the offspring physiology to promote a fetal neonatal adiposity, or as children, they can become more obese. They can land up with adult hyperinsulinemia, they can have hyperlipidemia, and they can have increased risk of diabetes and cardiovascular disease when the mother is taking an excess fat during her pregnancy. There's also programming of taste, which has been talked about, and Dr. Sanjay Gupta sir actually mentioned this. That is when the offspring shows a preference for high fat, sugary, and salty foods. They say this tendency is already programmed when the baby is in utero and the mother is consuming lots of junk food or high fat diet. And this hyperphagia with the offspring is because the mother is taking high sugars, but actually it's not because of high fat or a low carbohydrate diet. It's always because of a high sugar diet. A combination of pre-pregnancy overweight or obesity in the mother and a gestational junk food diet is going to come, that combination is going to cause more risk to the baby. And this also increase the risk of macrosomia when it's in utero. Omega fatty acids are extremely important even in the preconceptional period. And when the mother takes it adequately, it's going to have a beneficial effect on the development of preeclampsia, placental weight, the cognitive development of the offspring, and it promote linear growth up to 18 months of age in offspring of primigravida women. and it will prevent the adverse effects on appetite regulation and energy metabolism in the offspring. And the other spectrum of maternal obesity is there's a paradox. The mother will be obese, but she'll suffer from multiple micronutrient deficiencies. And this will translate to an increased risk of transgenerational NCDs in the baby. And it's going to cause serious long-term health and societal consequences, because even though she's obese, she's not having adequate nutrients, and those deficiencies will also contribute to an increased risk of NCDs. And the most important is iron deficiency. And we know that it causes an impaired fetal development, preterm delivery, and low birth weight. And we have to remember that actually iron deficiency is much more common in obese women compared to with women of healthy body weight, and that's because of the leptin in them. Folate deficiency can cause anemia, neural tube defects, UGR, and other fetal malformations, preterm delivery, and low birth weight. And we know that a periconceptual folic acid supplementation can prevent 46% of the neural tube defects. Vitamin D deficiency is the other common feature which is seen in women who are overnourished. And that's because the fat stores also will need vitamin D, and that's going to take from the maternal reserves, the vitamin D. And so a deficiency happens in her. And when this deficiency happens, it's going to translate to a fetal effect, and that's going to cause a problem in the fetal skeletal development, will affect the offspring's bone trajectory, and will result in long-term bone disorders like osteoporosis. And that is irrespective of whether the baby is being given good nutrition in the post-delivery status. And vitamin D deficiency is also associated with preeclampsia, preterm birth, and small for gestational age babies. So what are the measures to be taken to promote optimum nutrition? Preconception advice is extremely important. And for that, the role of healthcare services is mandatory. And you need to give good postpartum advice when she's delivered, and always recommend regarding her weight even before she becomes pregnant. And what is the advice we'll give in the preconception period? A proper dietary advice, an advice on her physical activity, and always ask her to optimize her weight with a BMI between 18.5 to 25, and assess her micronutrient status even before she becomes pregnant. And what is the role of healthcare services in preconception services to a lady in the reproductive age group? We have to modify an unhealthy diet and physical activity, because they are major modifiable risk factors for NCDs and obesity. A professional guidance from healthcare staff will be extremely helpful in preventing these conditions by promoting foods such as vegetables, fruit, fish, and rich source of iron during her reproductive years. And in the postpartum period, give her support, and so that she gives exclusive breastfeeding for the first 6 months, which is also a good source of nutrition to the baby. And what is the way forward regarding the preconceptional nutrition for a person in the reproductive age group? There's a pressing need for us to ensure adequate and optimum nutritional intakes for all teenagers and women of reproductive age. Waiting until she becomes pregnant is actually too late. She needs to be in good nutritional health already before she becomes pregnant, and she should have an appropriate body weight before she becomes pregnant. And for that, we need to have a slew of public health measures. Attention needs to be placed on the importance of healthy food and meals with an optimal nutritional content, which should prevent both under and over nutrition. Services that tackle obesity and NCD prevention need to be integrated with those that tackle micronutrient deficiency. There needs to be an integration of services. There should be interventions which are needed to adjust the national price and availability of healthy foods in everyday life. And there needs to be prevention of marketing strategies which will undermine the consumption of healthy diets. There needs to be a multi-sectorial intervention which is implemented simultaneously, and that should prove to be cost-effective in terms of long-term health outcomes for the mother and the baby. Appropriate education of health professionals is also needed on diet-related issues, and that's why certificate course on nutrition is very important as far as maternal health is concerned. We need to give special guidance on clinical care pathways to manage and prevent underweight, overweight, and obesity in women. We need to incorporate e-health with shared access among different groups of healthcare professionals, and that COVID has taught us to use e-health for that. And we have to remember that WHO 2016 has also brought out a strong statement on nutrition in pregnancy. That is, there is an intergenerational impact of nutrition which needs to be given importance. We need new policy changes at every level, and there's a need for protecting and promoting public health through maternal and infant nutrition. Thank you so much, Dr. Lakshmi Man, Dr. Vidya Dobi, and Dr. Ranjana Khanna for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Dr. Charmila. That was a wonderful talk, and I think all of us really enjoyed it. And I don't think there are any questions still. So we can move off to the next one. And I can see Komal smiling because finally her turn has come. So I invite you, Dr. Komal Chauhan, to give your talk on micronutrients. Everyone knows that she was the chairperson of the Medical Disorders Committee of FOGSI. And so over to you, Komal. I can't see your CV anywhere, so maybe I can't say more about you. Yeah, please. We are looking forward to your talk, Komal. And we all know that you are a very good orator and that you are going to contest the elections also. So go ahead with your talk on micronutrients.
Thank you so much. At the outset, I would like to thank Dr. Lakshmi Madam, Dr. Ranjana Madam, Dr. Charmila and Dr. Vidya Thobi. I think it is a very well thought about thing, ICOG certificate course on nutrition, because we know how nutrition is so important. And I've been listening to talks by everybody now, and it is really nice to know, the different aspects of nutrition. And the topic which I'm going to speak today is on antioxidants in obstetrics and gynec. And we really want to know what is the effect? Are the antioxidants really effective? What is their role? And in what conditions that I'm going to highlight? That is the purview of this talk. So if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. This is said by Van Diner. And with this, I begin my presentation. So to know what are the micronutrients, or also called as antioxidants, what are they? They are basically the biological and chemical compounds that reduce oxidative damage. And they are organic nutrients, basically the vitamins, minerals, polysaturated fatty acids, and they are going to have some effect on the oxidative damage which is happening. And we know the market of antioxidants is growing exponentially. It has been growing in billions, and over the years, it is just getting high and high, because we see so many prescriptions adding an antioxidant supplement to their list, and patients are getting prescribed. So what is the need of this antioxidants? And to know that, the most important factor which we should know is the oxidative stress, which is caused by the imbalance between pro-oxidants and antioxidants. So basically a balance is maintained, and when this balance is disturbed, we get oxidative stress, because there is certain amount of reactive oxygen species which is needed for progression of normal cell functions. And upon oxidation, every molecule returns to its reduced state. So excessive reactive oxygen species production create an environment which is actually unsuitable for normal female physiological reaction. So whatever the normal physiological things which are happening is getting actually affected. And that is oxidative stress. And how the oxidative stress will have the impact on the reproduction, we really know the lifestyle. Actually, everybody spoke. I saw Dr. Suchitra speaking about the adolescent health, about the lifestyle and everything. So this becomes the most important factor, that is the obesity, undernutrition, habits like alcohol, smoking, environmental, even the drugs. So these are the lifestyle things. Then come to the pathological factors, like somebody having a PCOD or an underlying endometriosis, preeclampsia, unexplained infertility, or even age-related fertility decline. And when they get pregnant, what we see complications during pregnancy, that like IUG, or preterm labor, spontaneous abortion. Dr. Charmila spoke so much about the preconceptional role of nutrients. So all these and some amount affect the fertility or the reproductive outcome of a female. So in female infertility, we know that oxidative stress has a major role to play a part right from the oocyte maturation to the embryo development. And that is really very important. At every stage, there is an effect of oxidative stress, which causes decline in the ovarian function, decreased steroidogenesis. Reactive oxygen species negatively affect the oocyte maturation. It decreases the fertilization and blastocyst development. Also, as there is an age-related decline in the fertility, and we see decrease in the oocyte penetration, decreased implantation, and decreased loss of implanted embryo. So when we talk about oxidative stress and PCOS, so 90% of PCOS have an infertility or unable to conceive. So this mitochondrial dysfunction, which generates increases levels of reactive oxygen species from mononuclear cells, which then activate, they release the TNF alpha, increase inflammatory transcription. And this is known as a mediator for the insulin resistance. And we all know that insulin resistance is the most common etiology of PCOS. And this is the factor where the PCOS and oxidative stress are linked. Now, coming to the oxidative stress in a typical ART setting, what do we see? In a typical ART setting, we have an exogenous sources wherein the gametes and the pre-implantation embryo have potential to generate the reactive oxygen species. Then we have endogenous sources like the light which is used, the centrifugation, the cryopreservation, the culture medium, oxygen concentration, the temperature maintenance, even the IVF technique, everything can have an effect on the oxidative stress and the quality of the transfer. So coming to the embryo development, what happens, the free radicals and reactive oxygen species, which are there in ART, they affect the culture medium, then there can be a poor oocyte quality or even an abnormal sperm oocyte interaction. So there is an abnormal fertilization, impaired embryo development and growth. And then at all levels, there can be a two-cell block or rate of blastocyst development is on a decrease, or there can be decrease in the embryonic cell number, and which causes embryo fragmentation and apoptosis. And finally, there is a failed implantation. So we see that there is an unexplained or a recurrent failures of IVF cycle. So even in unexplained infertility, 15% of the couples usually will have this. And here also the literature very rightly points out to increase level of lipid peroxidation markers, melanine dihalide, and N-acetylcysteine as a potent antioxidant that has been used as a cofactor for ovulation induction. So we really know that there is a role in unexplained infertility also. So how does the antioxidant help? Vitamin E will help in improving epithelial growth in blood vessels and in endometrium. Vitamin D will be benefit to women with PCOS in lowering hyperandrogenism. Myo-inositol helps ovarian function, decreases hyperandrogenism and insulin resistance. L-arginine also improves the endometrial blood flow. Then N-acetyl will be needed for the fertile cervical mucus and ovulation. And when we talk about the polysaturated fatty acids, they have an effect in the prostaglandin synthesis. And this is an important pathway when steroidogenesis and is a part of the cell membrane of the sperm and the oocyte. Now, apart from infertility, we really cannot neglect the PIH. The PIH is, we know that the endothelial dysfunction is also caused by oxidative stress. There are so many studies are there which shows that an increase in the lipid perioxidation in preeclamptic patient as compared to the normotensives is seen. And this causes an imbalance between thromboxane and prostacyclins. And so oxidative stress with PIH can cause placental lipid perioxidation. That is when there is a decreased antioxidant availability, all including vitamin E, C, beta carotene, selenium, even all these are essential. And what it causes is endothelial cell dysfunction. And this predisposes to clinical preeclampsia. What about the cancers, the gynecological cancers? Really, the recent epidemiological studies describe that oxidative stress has a causal role in carcinogenesis of two histological subtypes, that is ovarian cancer, that is clear cell carcinoma, and endometrioid adenocarcinoma. And in patients diagnosed with these cancers have actually reduced plasma antioxidants. And that is how carcinogenesis is in the multi-step process, and from a normal cell to a precancerous and finally a cancer cell. So there are multiple steps. So at every step, there is an effect that is the cell damage or the initiation of DNA damage or repair can be there. And at one stage, it becomes an irreversible. And then from a pre-neoplastic, it becomes a neoplastic. So antioxidants do have a role in an initial stage. Coming to the antioxidants, which are the antioxidants which are available? So do we have to only depend upon what is available? So there are naturally occurring antioxidants also. Then there are enzymatic antioxidants, which includes the SOD catalase, glutathione oxidase, and there are non-enzymatic, which are synthetic or antioxidant or dietary supplements. So when we talk about our drugs, that is vitamin C, E, beta carotene, selenium, these are common one, and this is their role in the gynecology, which we actually discussed about being from, like apart from the cancers to BIH and infertility. And some are the dietary occurring, because diet, which was nutrition, is so much focused. So we really need to know that if carrot, green leafy vegetables, these are carotene prevents breast cancer. Even the tomatoes or the yellow vegetables, and they are rich in lycopene, the prostate cancer, it benefits. And there are certain beneficial effects of garlic and onions on gastrointestinal cancer, and green tea and all, the breast, ovarian, cervical cancer, so on. So every food, like call as a superfood actually, they have antioxidants and they are beneficial. This dietary intake is really beneficial. The certain modification in diets do help. What about phytoestrogens? Do they have an antioxidant role? So we all know that phytoestrogens are structurally and functionally similar to 17-beta estradiol, and thus they bind to estradiol receptors. Therefore, isoflavone and their phenolic compound decrease the level of markers of oxidative stress also, and they boost DNA resistance to oxidative damage. And that is the reason they have a synergistic action with estrogen and also an antioxidative mechanism, and thereby gives a positive effect. When the studies have been done, they show on a cardiovascular system, immunological system, and even central nervous system. So with the women with phytoestrogen supplementation do benefit as per the studies. So also I'll just point out few clinical studies, because we really don't want, so many trials are there, but sometimes they are pharma driven. So really, what is the evidence in supporting? So evidence supporting is that the endometriosis with antioxidant supplementation and related to pelvic pain. And here this study shows that when the inflammatory markers were measured in the peritoneal fluid of the patient who were given antioxidants, and they found that there was a decrease in the chronic pelvic pain, symptom decrease in the endometriosis group than in the placebo group. And it was really very, very significant result that antioxidants did help in reducing the chronic pelvic pain with endometriosis. Then coming to the preeclampsia, which we spoke about, and here there was a 3 levels of oxidative stress markers, that is glutathione peroxidase, superoxide dimutase, and malonyl dihydride, and 2 antioxidant, vitamin C and lycopene, in healthy and preeclamptic women. They were compared. It was a 50-50, a small group, but here they found that supplementing dietary antioxidants may have a beneficial role in prevention of preeclampsia at women at high risk for this study. And this is study by our very own Dr. J.B. Sharma. So we really know that there was some role in preeclampsia. What about the eclamptic mothers? Even in eclamptic mothers, supplementing, they actually found out the study of the umbilical cord samples which were taken from the delivery, and they found out the concentration of the trace elements. And here they found the reduced level of trace elements associated with inadequate amount of antioxidant enzymes may be important in factors in leading to endothelial dysfunction in preeclamptic and eclamptic mothers. And they really found that the outcome which was there with supplementing antioxidants, it was really very good. And apart from that, even the trophoblastic cells were susceptible to oxidative stress, and which increase the cell death and placental turnover. So the study in which they found out that when the trophoblastic cells were treated with N-selenite or selenomethionine to increase the biological activity of antioxidants, then the cells were then oxidatively stressed and added the increasing dose of antimycin C, and they found out that there was, and maintaining an adequate level of these antioxidants, especially the selenium, during pregnancies is really beneficial for preeclampsia. So they pointed out so many studies in which certain role of particular antioxidant for particular condition, and it protects the trophoblastic cell from mitochondrial oxidative stress. So really there are role of small trace elements in all these conditions. Infertility, we have already spoken about the unexplained infertility, and here also they concluded that in women with having the high BMI, increasing level of beta carotene was really, really essential, apart from supplementing with vitamin C and vitamin E. And talking about the oxidative stress in the post-menopausal woman, So we talked about all conditions, but in postmenopausal women, apart from the phytoestrogens, also the lycopene, which diet which was there, and the serum levels were studied, and they found out that daily consumption of lycopene is so important as it acts as an antioxidant. It actually improves the bone health, the bone resorption in the postmenopausal woman, and thereby it is really beneficial as an adjuvant when given for the women who are at risk of osteoporosis. So this also is very important at a later part of life in a postmenopausal period. So there are so many trials. There are almost trials involving, this is a Cochrane, and a recent one with almost 6,000 women. And there were all the investigators, they compare the oral with the placebo, and then the combination antioxidants and the single, additives, everything. And the results were said that the live birth rate, clinical pregnancy rate, miscarriage rate, everything improved when there was an antioxidant supplementation. So all the studies data which they got, they said that antioxidant does have some benefit, but no harm. So this is what they said. So to conclude, what we say is we actually require the increased knowledge about importance of these specific antioxidants, especially the micronutrients. What is your role in achieving, maintaining successful pregnancy, and also the long-term or the short-term health benefits? And when we really need to identify certain conditions, oxidative stress, which are going to be really in high-risk patients, and definitely supplementing with an antioxidant would be really beneficial. So I will end with a quote saying that the healthy outside starts from healthy inside. And now we really want to stress on that to eat is a necessity, but to eat intelligently is an art. And nutrition first is what is the idea behind this certificate course. And antioxidant is something which is one of the important aspects of nutrition. So with that, I thank you all for your patient hearing. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Team ICOG and all the conveners, I'm really honored and humbled to be part of this. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Komal. It was a crystal clear talk. But, one thing I wanted to clarify that it is said that the role of isoflavones nowadays is currently in doubt because they say that it competes with the receptor sites of the estrogen. So it could be, precancerous. So nowadays, there is a doubt whether to use isoflavones in postmenopausal or not to advocate. So what's your take on that?
See, basically, they are naturally occurring and they are
but they compete with the same site as estrogen.
If you are giving as an estrogen supplementation, ideally, there are not many people taking actually hormonal supplementations.
Yeah.
We give phytoestrogen as a first line, when they have postmenopausal. So I think safely we can give it to them because if they're taking only phytoestrogen, if you are really considering estrogen supplementation, I don't think adding a phytoestrogen is beneficial. So
no, not that. What I mean, only phytoestrogens. Can we continue them for a long time? Or... I
have my patients continuing and we have been giving and it is a good result. I'm not seeing because I think it's just an adjuvant and role.
No, it is got an adjuvant role, but it competes with the estrogen at the receptor sites. So it could lead to, what I have read is it could lead to endometrial hyperplasia.
Yes, I have not seen any studies. We have so many patients who are coming actually because I actually had one study about the phytoestrogen, vitamin D, and I have one paper also which I published, and I had around 100 women which we have done. I didn't see any incidence of endometrial hyperplasia per se in any of the patients, but there were beneficial role as in the bone health, overall the vasomotor
definitely there is a role.
Beneficial role was there.
What is your take on it, Dr. Vidya?
I think Dr. Suchitra madam can.
Yeah, Suchitra madam
can
really solve this query.
No, I'm there. I'll tell you something. Phytoestrogens, we lack a lot of RCTs on that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually grown products, and they do help in some extent. But in the very mild perimenopausal symptoms, that is where their role is. And want to supplement it. You're very right in saying that it competes with the estrogen receptor sites, but they stimulate the estrogen receptor sites in a very, very mild way.
Mild way. Okay.
Hyperplasia is very
Yeah.
minimal as
Okay.
compared to the estrogen. So that way,
Okay.
but where a woman really requires, she's really deficient, my real advice to everybody is please don't woman of hormone replacement therapy. We call it now menopausal hormone therapy. Give it to her, counsel her, do investigation, give it to her for whatever period of time. There's enough reports to say that it helps.
Yes.
Yeah, people
So
are
that
afraid
is
to
what,
give
you
this
know,
one.
this was my, in my mind, at the back of my mind, because phytoestrogens, they don't help to that extent. In the initial phases, they do help. But then when I read some contradictory reports, so I was held back on that.
Yeah. People are afraid to give this menopausal hormone therapy. They are afraid of this, whether that produces malignancy and also.
But if you add progesterone to it in low doses, then it's fine.
That awareness should be there. And food supplement, phytoestrogen, I don't think they cause much of the endometrial hyperplasia.
Yeah, okay. So we'll move on to the next session, which is going to be taken by a very dear friend of mine, Dr. Madhuri Patel. And everyone knows that she's Secretary General of FOGSI. She's been associate editor of Jogi, and she's got a lot of publications to her credit. So welcome, Dr. Madhuri, on your talk on nutrition during lactation.
Thank you, Ranjana, for your kind and generous word. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, you are audible.
Yes. Okay, I'll share my screen, okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you see my screen now?
It's just coming, ma'am.
Started screen sharing.
Okay?
Yeah, it's there.
Yeah.
Okay, so respected our President, Dr. Rishikesh Pai, our most dynamic and visionary. Then our Dr. Lakshmi, ICOG, I was going through one by, and she's doing the series as well as she's doing the different courses. So I really congratulate her along with Dr. Parag and Dr. Ashok Kumar. Then we have Dr. Charmila, she's the main person I think in this series, and Dr. Ranjana, Dr. Kiran, Dr. Vidya, and Dr. Ritu. So these are the people involved, and I thought that's now formal, and the series is going quite well and in time. And of course, today's we have a speaker, also excellent speaker. Which I miss, I'll definitely see on the the link I will take and see that, because it is very, very important. So Dr. Sanjay Gupte, Dr. Komal, Dr. Amaya, Suchitra, Dr. Charmila, Dr. Jayam, and Dr. Manjupur, and all my dear friends. Very good evening to all of you. I told Vidya that this time I'm not actually free because I'm in the clinic, but then I say no, I must take out the time and do the justice. So if you see that pregnancy is over, delivery is over, and many of our not only the women who deliver, mothers who deliver, they are not so keen to have a proper nutrition, and therefore the nutrition, diet and nutrition during lactation is very, very important. And how this is important, I have taken references from ICMR, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, WHO, and FOGSI. So breast milk is the best food for the newborns and infants. The nutritional stores of a lactating woman may be more or less depleted as a result of the pregnancy and the loss of blood during childbirth. Lactation raises nutritional needs mainly because of the loss of nutrition, not only during delivery, but also through colostrum and through breast milk. Breast milk volume varies widely. The nutrients present in this milk comes from the diet of the mother, and the diet is not enough, then it comes from her reserves. So therefore, nutritional requirements are considerably high during lactation than during pregnancy. So during the first 6 months of life, the infant doubles the weight gain during 9 months of gestation. So we have to know that yes, baby has to put on, it has to become a double weight what it was at the birth time by 6 months. The milk produced in the first 4 months of lactation constitutes an amount of energy that is equivalent to the total energy expenditure of the gestation. So it is required, lactation has to be looked after properly. So now let's look at the human milk is formulated to meet the nutrient needs of infant for the first 6 months of life. Breast milk has the perfect composition for a baby's need. Breast milk contains at least 100 ingredients not found in formula, and no babies are allergic to the mother's milk. And one more thing I would like to add, the mother doesn't have to prepare at night or any milk production. It is just warm, temperature control, and she has to just feed the baby. So breast milk provides the infant with temporary immunity to many infectious diseases because the babies receive antibodies from milk. It reduces incidence of infection, diarrhea, allergies, asthma, and it also reduces risk of obesity and chronic diseases. What about the mother? It helps the mother to lose the weight which she has gained during pregnancy. It stimulates uterus contraction back to original size and reduces risk of cancer and osteoporosis. So these are the main things mother also get the benefit. So as we say that mother needs extra nutrition to nourish her rapidly in addition to her own requirement. So any inadequacy in mother's diet influence both the quality and quantity of mother's milk secreted. If her diet is inadequate, she will draw her body reserves to meet the needs of the lactation at the cost of her own health. So as I say, the baby doubles at 6 months of her weight and at the age of 1 year triples the weight. This explains why the infant's energy, vitamin, mineral, and protein requirements are higher. So approximately 85 calories are required to produce 100 ml of milk. During the first 6 months, mother requires approximately an extra 640 calories a day. That is about 750 ml of milk production. And during the second 6 months, when the baby starts eating the other food, the caloric requirement is reduced to approximately 510 extra calories because it requires production of about 600 ml of milk. Food and Nutrition Board suggests increase of 500 calories a day, especially protein. About 10 grams of protein are secreted in the milk each day, and sufficient fluid to be replaced those lost in infant milk by best is by water and fruit juices, which will definitely replace the fluid. So there are extra energy also are required, 150 kilocalorie because of the metabolic work to produce the milk. The total energy intake recommended for lactating mothers ranges between 2300 to 2500 calories a day for feeding a single child and 2600 and 3000 calories a day for feeding twins babies. So what are the nutritional requirements? And the major nutrition requires proteins, fats, vitamins, minerals, omega-3 fatty acids, and water and others. So let us look at the proteins. It is the most important food. It contains 1.115 gram per 100 ml. For first 6 months, 70 gram of protein per day and 6 to 12 means 68 grams per day is very important. And it is in the food, rich food are protein rich foods are paneer, cheese, legumes, lentils, whole grains, pulses, soy products, nuts, seeds, beans, eggs, lean meat, fruits, and vegetables. If the protein intake is insufficient, the concentration of casein in the milk may be inadequate. Casein is an important nutritional component of milk and it is needed for the absorption of calcium and phosphate in the gut of the infant and has a immunomodulatory functions. It is also found in insulin resistance depends on the quality of the protein contributed by the diet rather than on its amount, and thus consumption of fish-derived proteins during breastfeeding seems to have a long-term beneficial effect on insulin regulation and sensitivity. So it is very, very good people who are the fish eaters. So let us look at the fats. Composition of fat milk reflects that of fat in mother's diet. It does not affect quantity. Sufficient only, and with this, so your fat containing diet are sufficient for this. The lipid in breast milk are the fraction that most contributes to its energy content. Maternal malnutrition is associated with the lower concentration of lipid in breast milk. The distribution pattern of fatty acid in breast milk is also sensitive to the mother's diet. DHA is a nutrient with a limited endogenous biosynthesis, so it must be obtained through the diet as it is most important omega-3 acid for the optimal development of the fetus brain, retina, and ear. Look at the calcium. Breastfeeding transfers approximately 200 milligrams of calcium per day. ICMR recommends additional 600 to 1200 milligram calcium per day, and sources, dairy products, dark green vegetables, juices, cereals, soy milk, soy yogurt, fish consumed with bones, etc. Calcium is essential during lactation, during which it is subject to the special regulatory mechanism that lead to increased absorption, decreased renal excretion, and greater mobilization of bone calcium. To meet maternal calcium requirement, the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends lactating mother to consume 5 servings a day of calcium-rich foods of any kind. Now look at the iron. Mother milk is not a good source of iron. To compensate for a very small transfer, that is 0.5 to 0.7 milligram per day, about 15 to 20 milligram iron per day is recommended. And sources are lentil-enriched cereals, leafy green vegetables, peas, and dried fruit. And one should also prescribe vitamin C, which will help to increase the absorption of the iron. Iron supplementation is usually recommended to make up for losses sustained during childbirth. Although it must be noted, the women that practice exclusive breastfeeding usually experience amenorrhea for a minimum of 6 months and thus do not lose iron through menstruation during that time. Therefore, it could be said that the breastfeeding exerts a protective effect against maternal iron deficiency. Vitamin D is present in low amount in breast milk. Therefore, vitamin drops are usually recommended for babies from the age of 2 to 4 weeks. And women who have very high intake of vitamin, baby should not be given a vitamin drop, D drops, but otherwise baby requires it. So vitamin D deficiency is fairly frequent in pregnant and lactating women. Those who have strict vegetarian and those with limited exposure to UV radiation and with dark skin, or that mother who wears a veil may have very low plasma levels. The transfer of maternal vitamin D to milk is poor, so it is recommended that all breastfed infants younger than 1 year receive supplementation with 400 international units per day vitamin D, starting its administration within a few days from birth. And they can continue till 1 liter of vitamin D enriched formula per day is consumed. Now look at the omega-3 fatty acid. I have already mentioned that it is very important for the development of brain, skin, and eyes of the baby. And we have to supplement them because if it is deficiency, may also reduce behavior and cognitive issues in baby with early feedings. So oats, yes, nuts, rice, carrots, garlic, ginger, fennel, dill, yogurt, spinach. These are the best sources for the omega fatty acid. So vitamins, if you see A, B6, B12, folic acid, C, thiamine, niacin. In breast milk, it is how much and how much is the requirement. This chart says, which I'm not going to go into detail. So vitamin in breast milk depends on dietary intake. Minerals are secreted into breast milk regardless of the intake quantity. Therefore, vitamins are very important for both mother and baby, while the minerals are mostly important for the mother. So these are the vitamins B1, thiamine available in fish, pork, vitamin B12, riboflavin, cheese, almond, etc. Vitamin B6, seeds, nuts, fish, etc. Bananas, yes. Vitamin B12, shellfish, liver, oil fish, choline, vitamin A, vitamin D, selenium, and iodine. These are all where they are available. We are all aware about this. The concentration of some vitamins in breast depends on the levels in the mother, and deficiency in the mother can lead to deficiency in the infant. Therefore, this is particularly found for thiamine, that is B1, riboflavin B2, vitamin B6, B12, E, and A, and consequently, an increase in their intake is recommended during lactation. So these are very important vitamins, B1, B2, B6, B12, and E and A, which infant requires supplementation. As I mentioned, minerals matters to mother because it is more important for mother. So folate, calcium, iron, copper, and zinc. They are very important and they're essential for the mother, and they are found in this our food. So there are 10 food groups for balanced diet. Take at least 5, any group, which I'm going to show in the next slide. Any 5 groups you select of your choice, and if you select most common 7, then it is the best food for the mother to have. So first group is grain, white fruits, and tubers and plantains. Okay, these are also called as starchy staples. Group 2 is pulses, that is beans, peas, and lentils. Group 3 is nuts and seeds. Group 4 is dairy products. Group 5 is meat, poultry, and fish. Group 6 is egg. Group 7 is dark green leafy vegetable. Group 8 is vitamin A rich fruits and vegetables. And group 9 other vegetables, and group 10 other fruits. So it is recommended that out of these 10 groups, you can ask your patient lactating mother to choose at least 5 groups of their choice, and 7 will be the best. So one can tell them what they can have, what they cannot have, or what they like, what they don't like, then they can skip. And according to groups, they can adjust their nutritional requirement during lactation. So these are the, different foods, cereals and millets, when you say 1 cup cooked rice, it has a 170 kilocalorie, 2 chapatis has 160 calorie, paratha has 150, 2 slices of bread has 170, half cup of vegetable have 85, 1 medium sized seasonal fruit has 50 to 80 kilocalorie, and 1 cup milk have 170 kilocalorie, 2 slices of cheese have 100 kilocalorie, half cup curd has a 30, half cup cooked dal has 100, 1 teaspoon fats and oil have 9, and sugar 5 grams, that is 1 spoon. So these are the different calories in a different food. So let us adjust now for a diet for our nursing mother. So she can have morning 8 a.m. 1 cup tea, sugar plus 7 to 8 soaked almond and 4 to 5 dates. Breakfast at 9 a.m. 1 glass of skimmed milk, half cup of badam shira, 1 fruit or 3 small methi or palak paratha, half cup curd raita, or 3 slices of whole wheat bread, and 2 eggs plus fruit or cup of poha or upma, or plus fruit and 1 sun wari. So morning 1 fruit plus methi at 11 a.m. Methi laddu, which is commonly used in our Indian scenario. Lunch 1 cup salad, 2 rotis, 2 small bajra roti, 1 cup rice, 1 cup vegetable, 1 cup moong dal curry, 1 cup salad, 2 rotis, 1 cup rice plus cup vegetable plus 1 cup fish curry. Evening, 4 o'clock, 1 glass of milk and 1 gunda laddu. So in the evening, again, she can have 1 cup of tea with two small pancakes or sprouted bale or 1 cup vegetable upma. Dinner, 1 cup of salad plus 2 rotis, 1 cup rice plus 1 cup leafy vegetable and 1 cup dal. And bedtime, 1 glass of milk. So depending upon the patient requirement, what patient can afford, what patient cannot afford, they can always go through the meals and have a healthy food during the lactational period. Now, if you look at the colostrum, is the first yellow colored thick milk secreted that is rich in all the necessary nutrients. Feeding colostrum protects the baby against infection and promotes health during childhood and later in years. Cow milk, sometimes the children are allergic to 6% children are allergic to cow milk. They may develop rashes, eczema, diarrhea, vomiting, or baby colic. So we have to avoid, mother has to avoid this cow milk for 2 to 4 weeks. And then again, she can have after 1 week, take this, cow milk. And again, the baby develops. Then the mother has to stop this milk and the baby should not be given this cow milk. So these are the content of the human cholesterol, human breast milk, cow milk with the proteins, immunoglobulin, fat, lactose, calcium, phosphorus, and sodium. So in human cholesterol, everything is more. In human breast milk, some is less. In cow milk, some is less and some is more. So these are the things we have to know, that what we are prescribing, what we are saying, what baby is getting, and how much baby should get. So eating a variety of foods while breastfeeding will change the flavor of your breast milk. So this will expose baby to different tastes, which might help him or her more easily accept solid foods down the road. So many times we say it is a genetic, but it is not a genetic. I was surprised to find out this data that even mother eats whatever food, the child loves that. It is not genetic because it's the flavor of breast milk contains that, and they start developing taste that time onwards during breastfeeding, and they may like that same food more in future. Water intake, they feel more thirstier than usual breastfeeding due to an increased oxytocin during breastfeeding due to an increased oxytocin. Drink a glass of water or juice or a soup every time breastfeeding is done. Do not remain thirsty. Plenty of water intake is required, at least 8 to 10 glasses. Prolactin is responsible for milk production and oxytocin is involved in milk ejection from the breast. So lots of water mother has to take. So don'ts. Avoid alcohol as traces of it are found in breast milk. Excess caffeine or caffeinated drinks can cause the infant to be irritable or agitated, may interfere with baby's sleep. The biggest concern is addiction of the mother to the baby. Sugar should be limited, can cause increase in weight. So you have to make efforts to restrict the sugar, and mother can also, when you are restricting sugar, even mother can lose weight faster. Limit foods high in sugar and fat, potatoes, crisps, chocolates, cakes, and soft drinks. Empty calories with little nutritional value because they have very less calorie value, but they have other problems. So at least mother should have 3 nutritious meals a day and another, 3 light snacks a day as part of their lactation diet. And all mothers should not skip their breakfast. So one has to take, 3 meals regularly with 3 light snacks. Dieting should be avoided during breastfeeding, which may reduce the quality and quantity of the milk. To lose pregnancy weight, limit the intake of food that are high in fat and sugar. Incorporate some moderate exercise like brisk walking 3 times a week. And we know all home remedies are there, which increases the lactation. And we all in India are having this, and which has been found that it does help, like methi laddu, gon laddu, almond halwa, dry ginger, burfi, recipe. bajra, and we all have eaten, and we have, experienced that yes, it does have a galactogenesis effect. Herbs, spice like ajwain, fennel, garlic believed to help in digestion and avoid colic pain in baby, while the above mentioned food preparation increase the milk production. They may help, however, let us put them in moderation as they are high in fat and calories. So the last word, we have talked about the lactation. Our speaker has talked about the pregnancy, but at the same time, I would like to say good nutrition during not only lactation, but during pregnancy can make the difference between a healthy, productive life and one shattered by health and economic problems for both mother and child. Most pregnant women will want the best nutrition for themselves and their children. They also will be concerned about their weight during and after pregnancy. So I thank all of you for the patient hearing.
Thank you so much, Dr. Madhuri, for this enlightening talk. And now I will request the last speaker to come up, and that is none other than the very illustrious and very popular teacher of Delhi. So Dr. Manju Puri, she is the director, professor, and previous head of the department of Lady Hardinge Medical College, and written a lot of books, and one of her books is on anemia in pregnancy. So she has been allotted this topic of nutritional deficiency and anemia. So over to you, Dr. Manju Puri. It's a pleasure to have you on board.
Thank you, Dr. Ranjana. Thank you so much for having me here. Thanks to team ICOG and FOGSI and Dr. Vidya for inviting me. And I'm indeed very happy to be here. So I'll share my screen. Can you see my screen?
No, not yet. Started screen sharing, it's coming.
All right. Just give me a moment, please.
Somebody has asked the question, Dr. Madhuri, what would be the best alternative of breast milk of working women?
Yeah, what nowadays, what is happening, Ranjana, that the breast pumps are available. So the working mother can always store the breast milk.
Yes.
And, whoever is looking after. So that is, I found the best solution.
Exactly.
This is the one best solution.
True,
so, everything is available. Only thing we have to explore, we have to tell our patient.
Exactly.
And that will definitely give the best thing out of this.
Well said. Well taken. Yeah.
So is my screen visible now?
Yeah, it is.
Yes, Dr.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And I bring you greetings from Lady Hardinge Medical College. And I'm going to talk on a subject which is very, very close to my heart, and that is nutritional deficiency and anemia. Now, anemia is a silent epidemic which adversely affects the health of individuals and the economic growth globally. It is the world's second leading cause of disability, responsible for 1 million deaths per year. The physical and cognitive losses due to anemia cost the developing countries up to 4% loss of GDP. And nutritional deficiency anemia is the commonest, and hence this topic for discussion here. We all know that Government of India has been struggling hard to combat anemia, and various national programs to prevent anemia have been rolled out ever since 1970, that is approximately 50 years ago. We started as National Nutritional Anemia Prophylaxis Program, which was renamed National Nutritional Anemia Control Program, then moved on to National Iron Plus Initiative, then Anemia Mukt Bharat in 2018. The mainstay of all these programs have been iron and folic acid supplementation. Now let's look at what Anemia Mukt Bharat was meant to be. It was rolled out in 2018 with the target that by 2022, we will be bringing down the prevalence of anemia significantly in all the age groups. So if we focus on the ones which is there in this yellow box, pregnant women, at that time, as per NFHS 2016, NFHS 4, the prevalence was 50%, and it was thought that we would, by this ambitious program, we would bring it down to 32%. And in lactating women from 58% to 40%, and in women of reproductive age group overall from 53 to 35%. And a very well-planned program. We can say that COVID was a disruptor, but still it does not explain that why in 2019-21, that is NFHS 5, instead of going down, the anemia has actually increased. So if we look here, in women who were pregnant and anemic, from 50.4% in 15-16, it went up to 52.2%. And if you look up, all the categories show that the prevalence of anemia has rather increased. So if we keep doing what we have always done, we will get the same results as we've always got. So we have always been focusing on iron and folic acid, and I think that is where we have gone wrong. So if we want different results, we will have to think differently. So 50 years has been quite a long period. We have been insisting on IFA tablets, which are freely available, but still we've not even able to bring anemia by a few notches down. So time to think beyond IFA tablets. And I think it is other micronutrient deficiencies like vitamin B12, vitamin B6, vitamin A, copper, zinc, etc., which have been missed out. So our focus has been on IFA and nothing else. So I think that is where we have gone wrong. And also we have been always focusing on oral routes. I think we need to explore other routes. It also calls for behavioral changes and focused counseling on diet and intake of iron and calcium tablets. We keep giving iron calcium together, so we know that the absorption is not going to happen. And diet, I don't think so, because all the antenatal clinics are very, very heavy. And so we barely, manage to give them iron, folic acid, and IFA tablets and calcium tablets, and that's it. So we need to think in a different way to make, some impact. A very good paper published in 2022, very recent paper. So on micronutrient deficiency in pregnancy, time to think beyond iron folic acid supplementation by Muthu Gopal and the group, and they looked at micronutrient status among 139 pregnant women. The prevalence of anemia was tallying with what we have seen, 52.5%. They looked at ferritin levels; they were low in 42.4%. Vitamin B12 was low in 41.7%, almost equal to those who were deficient in iron. Iodine was low in 14.4%. Zinc in 11.4%, copper and selenium were low in 1%. So, meaning thereby they concluded that anemia and micronutrient deficiency are high among pregnant women. High time that health policies extended beyond IFA supplementation. So looking at the magnitude of vitamin B12 deficiency in pregnancy, vitamin B12 deficiency in Indian women during pregnancy range between 40 to 70%. It is a huge number, and more than it is more in north and western part of India. With the advancement of pregnancy and increased fetal demands, the concentration of vitamin B12 in blood falls, and the proportion of vitamin B12 deficient women increases as the pregnancy advances. The babies who are born to vitamin B12 deficient moms are also vitamin B12 deficient. So although it is widely prevalent, vitamin B12 supplementation is not a part of public health policy in India. And I think we at FOGSI and we at all the fora need to address this unmet need. This is a study, one of the studies from our own hospital, where if you see that we looked up the vitamin B12, folic acid, and homocysteine levels in pregnant women in the first trimester, that is prior to they were started on any kind of supplementation, and the whooping 60% were deficient in vitamin B12 and 97% had normal folate levels. So imagine we keep giving folate, over and above what is actually required. and B12 is unaddressed. So a few facts about vitamin B12. It is a water-soluble vitamin that is derived from animal products such as red meat, dairy, and eggs. It needs an intrinsic factor produced by parietal cells in the stomach for its absorption from the terminal ileum. Once absorbed, it is used as a cofactor for enzymes that are involved in the synthesis of DNA, fatty acids, and myelin. And that is why whenever there is vitamin B12 deficiency, it can lead on to hematological and neurological symptoms. Vitamin B12 is stored in excess in liver for long times, decreasing the likelihood of deficiency. But if you already have a population which is vitamin B12 depleted, once they become pregnant, the baby needs more and more vitamin B12 for its DNA synthesis and even for methyl groups which need to be released from the 1-carbon cycle for methylation and epigenetics. So, but it is said that a person who is vitamin B12 replete, strict vegan diet for more than 3 years will be able to deplete the stores. So it is there in the liver for about 400 days. The importance of this fact lies in that if we supplement or if we give even a single injection of vitamin B12 to a pregnant woman, it should be able to tide over her pregnancy to quite an extent. So this is a 1-carbon cycle, which takes into consideration the folic and the folic acid and B12. So dietary folic acid gets into this pathway, and vitamin B12 is used as a cofactor. So this pathway brings, it is required for producing the basis for DNA synthesis. It produces nucleotides for DNA synthesis. It also produces methyl groups for DNA methylation. So that is why vitamin B12 and folic acid are both related to genetics as well as epigenetics. And homocysteine is one product which is involved in this cycle. So if we have either folic acid deficient or B12 deficient, the homocysteine levels can rise and lead on to adverse pregnancy outcomes. A very good meta-analysis or systematic review, which was published recently in 2021, it shows how low maternal B12 and has adverse effects on the pregnancy outcomes. It is not only that it is associated with adverse pregnancy outcomes, but also it has adverse long-term health outcomes in the offspring. So if you look what is in green, that is, we have high evidence that low B12 during pregnancy will lead on to low birth weight and neural tube defects. And all what is in orange tells us that B12 deficiency in pregnancy, it has moderate evidence that it is associated with low offspring B12, poor cognitive development, high adiposity, insulin resistance, higher FGR, and higher risk of GDM in the mother. So it is not only anemia, but vitamin B12 deficiency leads to lot many things. Sorry. If you look at the causes of vitamin B12 deficiency, we have autoimmune, that is pernicious anemia, we have dietary insufficiency, malabsorption, and others. We always think that vitamin B12 deficiency is more to do with pernicious anemia or autoimmune kind of, etiology, but no, it is dietary insufficiency because there is poor intake of food from animal origin, mostly due to religious, cultural, and economic factors. So this is the most common factor which causes vitamin B12 deficiency in Indian pregnant women or Indian population as it is. In addition to this, we must not forget that, a worm infection with tapeworm or even celiac disease are common factors which can give rise to inflammation in the small intestine and cause vitamin B12 deficiency. Added to it, we have now more of GDM and more women who are on metformin, again leading on to vitamin B12 deficiency. How do we diagnose? I think the rest of the features are the same. Hyperpigmentation of knuckles is one common sign which should be looked for. And of course, peripheral neuropathy and neuropsychiatric disturbances are seen in later. Your patients might even complain of tingling in the fingers. So, neuropathy is one of the common features. And if you look at the investigations, MCV of more than 100, a peripheral smear showing macrocytic or dimorphic picture, hypersegmented neutrophils, coexistence of thrombocytopenia, leukopenia with anemia, vitamin B12 levels of less than 200. The normal range is between 300 to 900, but it is important to remember that levels between 200 to 300 picogram are borderline. So if a woman has a level of 200 to 300 in the beginning of pregnancy, she's bound to become deficient towards the end. And these are the patients who crash, even despite taking iron folic acid, they have a sudden fall in the hemoglobin towards the last trimester. So these are the ones which are usually B12 deficient. So this is a picture showing, of macro ovulocytes. So you can see this oval cells and hypersegmented neutrophils. So sometimes, when you look at the CBC picture, you might find normocytic normochromic picture in a patient who is, got anemia. So MCV and MCH would fall in the normal range. But if you get a peripheral smear done for these patients, those are the patients where you can find out, 1 or 2 macrocytes. You get a dimorphic picture. So it is not only with CBC that you can find out whether the patient has got dimorphic or nutritional anemia. You need a peripheral smear to couple it up. So I think it is very important that we look at the CBC and the peripheral smear of our patients very carefully to identify those who need to be supplemented with B12. So this is what I was referring to, knuckle hyperpigmentation. Can you see? This is very, very typical. And if you start seeing it in your patients, you will know how many patients are B12 deficient. I would say it is a huge unmet need. This is a small STS project which was done by one of our undergraduate students. So she took 250 pregnant women. They were assessed for the presence or absence of knuckle hyperpigmentation. And we did their hemoglobin, folic acid, and B12 levels. 52% were anemic, again in sync with the NFHS figures. And of these anemic women, 73% were B12 deficient. So imagine what percentage of patients we leave untreated. Hyperpigmentation and anemia, a combination of hyperpigmentation of knuckles and anemia. In those patients, 86% were B12 deficient. So if you have a combination of the two, clinical pallor and hyperpigmentation of knuckles, if we combine these two, 92% were B12 deficient. And patients who had dimorphic anemia, 94% were B12 deficient. So I think that is what is important. We need to look at the patient carefully and look at the CBC and peripheral smear carefully. So we concluded that knuckle hyperpigmentation and macrocytosis in women with anemia can diagnose B12 deficiency in pregnant women in an affordable manner. So when you look at the peripheral smear, so even if they say a few macrocytes, it is a clue that your patient is B12 deficient, because in any case, you're going to give a folic acid as it is. So just a case study, which I thought I'll share with you. This is our own case study and tell you how do we miss on it. So this patient came to us in June. So she had a hemoglobin of 10.1. She was mildly anemic. She had an MCV of 92 and she had an MCH of 27. So if I look at this, everything was okay because normocytic, normochromic kind of picture. But 92, if she's mildly anemic, why would her MCV be 92? I think this is something which we need to look at. We gave her iron folic acid tablet, and after a month, she came back, and as a routine, we do a hemoglobin again in anemic patients. The hemoglobin came down to 9.6. So we thought she's not taking her tablets. So we again, and at the same time, she came with a peripheral smear picture also, because we do a CBC with peripheral smear for all our patients. Someone did not pay any heed to this dimorphic picture, right? Or even if they had paid heed, they thought it was folic acid. We don't think about vitamin B12 deficiency. So she was continued on IFA tablet. So see what happened. She came back after 2 months, that is in September. She was 9.2 now. So that was the time, because she was almost 28, 30 weeks. So we, as per protocol, we thought she's not, responding to oral iron. So we decided to give her parenteral iron. At the same time, we did her, the investigations. Her ferritin was 42, a B12 was 304, which they thought was normal, but it is again that borderline. We did not pay heed to that. Folate was 30. HPLC was normal, so she was given parenteral iron. And once she was given parenteral iron, she was not given any B12 because a B12 was thought to be normal. And now when she came back after 1 month, 1.5 months, her hemoglobin was 9.4. It did not rise further. So the reason was that when you gave parenteral iron, her erythropoiesis increased. And because she was already that borderline B12, so that manifested and her hemoglobin rather fell. And by the time she was 37 weeks, she was now 8.9 gram per cell because she had not received B12. There are a lot of clues, but we did not pick them up. So this is how we miss out on vitamin B12 deficiency. So how do we treat? The treatment involves depletion with B12, depending on the etiology, duration, and route of depending on the etiology, the duration and route may vary. Those with dietary deficiency, oral supplementation may suffice. You can give 1,000 to 2,000 microgram of vitamin B12 tablets per day. But those who have intrinsic deficiency factor, they have to be given parenteral iron. And when we give parenteral, intramuscular is preferred route because, if you give IV, then quite a significant amount of the drug is excreted. So there's no consensus on the dose of vitamin B12 deficiency for nutritional deficiency anemia. We know for pernicious, you have to give, initially you have to give 1 dose every alternate day for 7 to 8 doses, and then you give it every month. But for nutritional deficiency, we do not have any consensus. So normally what we do is we give 1,000 microgram of vitamin B12 intramuscular every week or on alternate day for 4 to 5 doses. And then we give 1,000 microgram a month. And those patients who have thrombocytopenia, we said thrombocytopenia is very common with B12 deficiency. We must give intramuscular injections very carefully. And if it is less than 50,000, we try and avoid. And if at all up till 30,000 you can give, but give it with a fine needle, 26 number needle, and press it for a while. This is our own study wherein we gave, 30 pregnant women were taken who were less than 36 weeks with moderate anemia, which was macrocytic and documented B12 deficiency. We gave them a single injection of 1,000 microgram. That is what I said, that it gets stored in the liver. So hemoglobin level after 4 weeks was assessed. It had risen from 8.76 to 10.53. And if you look at the B12 levels from 189, they went up to 435 and MCV decreased. And all the values were statistically significant. So at least in public sector, we should give 1 injection if we find out any of the clues pointing towards B12 deficiency. And the response is the reticulocyte count starts increasing within 3 to 5 days. What is interesting is that these patients are usually, come near term or at the time of delivery. The thrombocytopenia, we keep giving them platelet concentrates. But basically, if you give them B12, the thrombocytopenia would improve within 5 to 7 days. And the total recovery occurs in 6 to 8 days. In addition to this, when we are talking about nutrition, we must deworm all our pregnant women. It is a GOI, Government of India guideline. Once in her pregnancy, anytime from in the 2nd or 3rd trimester. So we don't give it in the 1st trimester, but 1 tablet of 400 milligram albendazole should be given anytime after the 1st trimester. Counseling on iron and calcium tablets also is important because we should ask them not to take iron and calcium tablets together. We should tell them that they should take the calcium tablet with the food and take the iron tablet 1 to 2 hours after the calcium tablet. The iron preparation may be changed, taken on alternate day or at night, because normally they say they don't tolerate it. So it is all and none. If they don't tolerate, they stop it. So we should tell them that even if they take 1 or 2 tablets a week, it is okay. And gradually they can build it up and their system would get adjusted. It may be taken with lemon juice. It is not to be taken with milk, tea, and coffee. That is what we need to tell them. So this is what you can advise them as far as what is iron-rich food, what is folic acid-rich food, and what is vitamin B12-rich food. If you look at the vitamin B12-rich food, most of the Indians are vegetarians and they would not take this food. Even if they take it, they are non-vegetarian, they would take it occasionally. It is not that they routinely take it. And that is why they are B12 deficient. Fruits and vegetables are very rich sources of folic acid. So I think that needs to be added. And this is what is rich in iron. So you have, green leafy vegetables, we all know. Then we have nuts, even moongfali and chana, all these are good. And all nuts, almonds, anything is good in iron. Of course, it is there in eggs also. It is there in non-vegetarian food. It is there in all the dals, cereals, bajra, millets. All these are very good sources of, iron. So this is a thali, which I think Dr. Madhuri had very nicely shown you all the, types of groups of foods which need to be included. And it should be like this. So grains, starchy vegetables should be there, covering 1/3 of your thali. And 1/3 should be with fruits and vegetables, right? So you have this green leafy vegetables and fruits. and then a small helping of nuts, and of course, lentils, rajma, chana, all dals and all should also be added. And this is what a pregnant woman or a lactating woman should be taking. So this is our own study from Harding, where we had put in, all the interventions, like given them dietary counseling, told them how to take iron, calcium, gave them vitamin B12, gave them parenteral iron between 28 and 30 weeks. So see, we had 50% of our mothers, book mothers, who used to be anemic when we started this project in June 21. And it took us quite a bit of time. We are now almost reaching 2 years. And we now have it at 22%. But it is a challenge. It is a challenge. And out of the 22% we have, majority are now mild anemia. And previously, we always used to have more of moderate anemia. And we have fewer patients who have moderate anemia. So my key messages are that nutritional deficiency anemia is not all about iron deficiency, but other micronutrient deficiencies like vitamin B12 and folic acid also needs to be kept in mind. Vitamin B12 deficiency in India is rampant. It is associated not only with anemia, but other adverse pregnancy outcomes and long-term health outcomes in the newborns. It is associated with GDM. It is associated with preterm labor. You talk of it. And an imbalance between folic acid and B12 is even more harmful. And over supplementation with folic acid is also harmful. So I think we keep giving folic acid. For those who keep giving 5 milligram even after first trimester, it is a big no. Pallor, knuckle hyperpigmentation, fall in hemoglobin despite IFA supplementation in last trimester, MCV of more than 100, macrocytes or dimorphic picture on peripheral smear must arouse suspicion for B12 deficiency. 1 or 2 injections of 1000 microgram intramuscular of vitamin B12 may suffice to tide over pregnancy in women with nutritional deficiency, but those who you think would be compliant, you can add on 1000 to 2000 microgram oral tablets. It is high time that we start thinking beyond IFA tablets and focus on micronutrient deficiency, especially vitamin B12. Thank you so much for patient hearing.
Thank you so much, Dr. Manjupuri, for this wonderful talk. It was an eye-opener of sorts because it brought back to a jolt to us that what we could be lacking sometimes could be the vitamin B12 deficiency. So thank you so much for bringing this forward. And I think it should be dealt with at the national level, and not only amongst us gynecologists, but if we all become aware, then it's good for the patients, because now we'll be thinking in that direction also. Otherwise, we tend to have a tubular vision, iron, folic acid, that's what we think about all the time. But you brought out this point wonderfully. Thank you so much, Dr. Puri, for this. And I don't think there are any questions, Dr. Vidya.
I'll just see. They have only complimented Dr. Manju.
Yeah.
I really wanted this talk here because
wonderful.
We always never look at vitamin B12 or other micronutrients. We read about folate trap and other things, but that is in the textbook.
Most neglected vitamin.
Yeah, and we never do the vitamin B12 levels also.
I know.
We think of thalassemia minor and other things. This is not responding when the hemoglobin does not go up.
Exactly.
Go on giving injectable ions, but vitamin B12 is out of box. So now I think those who have joined, they are alert about vitamin B12.
Yes.
And we should propagate this vitamin B12 everywhere. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you. And those studies are really very good.
I know. Very nice. Very nice. Dr. Manju, the way you brought out each point so wonderfully, I really appreciate that.
Now we will go on seeing the knuckles also. We were only seeing
that is a very, very important sign.
Yeah. Now I'm going to catch each patient's hand and see the back of the hand.
Try doing that. Yeah.
Please share the studies also. We will also like to add those studies. Yeah.
I'll share.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Manju.
Yeah.
Really nice one to join us. And
I-
you were the
I-
last A speaker of the today's session.
Yeah, last but not the least, certainly.
Yeah. Thank you very much. So, Jignesh, can you share now the post-test?
Post-test.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So all the participants, please attend to the post-test. I think you have listened each and every talk of today, and I think you will be able to answer more than 50%, 60%. The link has been shared, so everybody can attempt the questions. 2 minutes left.
Unmute yourself. Dr. Vidya, you're muted.
Yeah, the time is up. So
Yeah.
I hope that you have submitted maximum those delegates who have joined, they have submitted. And hearty congratulations for attending till last, because nutrition is such a
I know.
topic that to be till last, it is really difficult.
But I think the talks were very well put together.
Yes.
And the speakers were just too good.
Too good. So Jignesh, can you flash the right answers?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. You have, no? Otherwise, I will. How many have? Okay, 57 responses. Yeah. Start from the first, no? First, this is not the first question.
Ma'am, this one was the first question.
This was the first.
This is the
Yes,
this is
ma'am.
the first. Yeah.
This was the first one. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. So, ma'am, you are going to read it out?
Yeah, Ranjana, you can read few.
Yeah.
Read few.
Developmental origins of health and disease was proposed by Hales and Barker. That's the correct answer. Epigenetics is a study of modification of gene expressions. So well taught by Dr. Sanjay Gupte. Epigenetic diets are those, all of the above actually, class of bioactive dietary compounds, those food items which improve epigenome. So all of the above is the correct answer. Nutrigenomics is the science that helps us understand why some people respond differently to the same foods, that can explain why some people tend to consume more sugar, can help us in knowing why some people find it difficult to lose weight. All of the above is the correct answer. DASH is involved in gene expression of PEPCK, IGF insulin-like growth factor. And the correct answer is vitamin A. Commonly known obesity gene. is HLA-DR3, BRCA1, TPO, and MC4R. And the correct answer is MC4R. The diet most associated with high BP, sodium-rich diets. What is glycemic load? Rise in blood sugar after the consumption of a particular food, 100 grams, as compared to?
As compared to the reference food.
Reference food. So that is the correct answer. Oxidative stress causes infertility, PIH, cancers, A and B, or all of the above. So it is all of the above. Oxidative stress effects in ART by both endogenous and exogenous sources. So this is true. Somebody is upset that she submitted it a bit late.
We will tackle it later. We will finish it off.
Antioxidants are not included in these conditions. So we all know male infertility, yes, cancers, yes, IUGR, yes, but not in fibroid. Phytoestrogens are not oxidants. False. The normal pH of the vagina is 3.8 to 4.5. Eubiosis of the genital tract is represented by all except high microbial load. Probiotics have the following characteristics. That adhere to the intestinal mucosa, impart health benefits, establish temporary residence in the intestines. So all of the above is the correct answer.
Yeah, I'll take over.
Yeah.
16. So the 16th question is, all are true about prebiotics, except, so there are 4 options and the 4th one is correct. That is inhibit the growth of bifidobacteria. That is the correct answer. The 17th is most prevalent nutritional deficiency in adolescent in the world. That is the iron deficiency anemia. Following infestation contributing to nutritional deficiencies is common in adolescent, that is hookworm. But other worms also cause the malabsorption. But the correct answer is a hookworm for the nutritional deficiencies, especially iron deficiency. The following are the common nutritional concerns in adolescent except. That is a C is the correct answer. That is a low consumption of whole grains, calcium, and low fat dairy foods. You listen to the wonderful talk by Dr. Suchitra, and she's very much here. If you have any queries, you can ask. Fetal brain development can be affected in early pregnancy by maternal low intake of folate. So that is the correct answer. That is B. Do breastfeeding mothers need more calories? True or false? It is true. Multivitamins is necessary during breastfeeding? Yes, that is the correct answer. Food groups which should be avoided in lactating mothers, that is caffeine. Other 3 are very much essential. Which of the following sentences are correct? The correct answer is D, that is body weight gain in the individual trimesters of pregnancy can be more important than the total weight gain. Maternal undernutrition can lead to all the adult disease except ovarian cancer. So undernutrition can lead to hypertension, schizophrenia, diabetes. Maternal vitamin D deficiency can cause all in the fetus except, that is the height disorders. Which of the following statement is false about vitamin B12 deficiency anemia in pregnancy? It is usually manifest late in pregnancy, and the second option is correct, that is B. It is always associated with MCV of more than 100. Are you able to listen to me? Hello?
Yes, 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 you are audible.
Yeah, yeah. Which of the following statement is false about the oral iron supplementation? Can anybody tell? 28. Scroll down. Yeah. Ranjana was talking about the Government of India recommendations. So, which is the false?
Second one, ma'am.
Yes, very good. So everybody is alert and they're listening. The second one is the correct one. Vegetarians are usually folate replete and vitamin B12 deficient. True or false? It's true.
True.
True. And all the following are enhancers of dietary iron absorption except. Can anybody from the audience?
Green leafy vegetables.
Green leafy vegetables. Yes, correct. So all of them, they were listening and all of them, they have attended and all of them, they have submitted. I hope.
Yeah.
So next, I want to announce is tomorrow is very important day for us. It is the high-risk pregnancies and nutrition. So I request all of you to join. And those queries are there. Ranjana, can you address them? Some of them, they have post-test, they have missed, pre-test, they have missed. They have, at least they have listened to it.
Somebody has submitted it a bit late.
Yeah, question number, answer to 27 is B. That is, it is always associated with MCV of more than 100.
100.
Okay. Yeah.
That is false. That is false.
Yeah. Okay, then it was a very wonderful session. I thank ICOG chairperson, Dr. Lakshmi. She is there, I hope. And then the president, Dr. Rishikesh Pai, Dr. Madhuri Patel, and ICOG team, my co-convener, Dr. Anjana, and the wonderful speakers who were there. So Suchitra is still there. So thank you, Suchitra, for remaining here. Lakshmi, Lakshmi is there, but no, her video is not.
Dr. Suchitra has come back. So nice of you to stay all till the end.
Yes, yes, Lakshmi. Yes, yes, she's there. So thank you one and all, and please join in time tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Again, be ready for the pre-test. Please look at the flyer so that you will know the topics and be ready with the pre-test questions. Then you will listen to the eminent speaker and post-test. Few words from Dr. Lakshmi.
No, I am so happy that day one went off well, and must appreciate you and Ranjana Khanna, the co-convener for today, who conducted it very well.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And we were bang on time, Lakshmi, to
Yes,
top it all.
That is what I am appreciating the duo, Dr. Vishnu and Ranjana Khanna.
Very quick in getting on the next speaker on board.
Yes,
yes. Let us hope that our next 2 days also goes on so smoothly.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you, Suchitra. Thank you, Komal.
And Komal is still there.
Yes, Komal is there.
It was lovely, actually. Everything was so
very nice, very nice. Yeah.
It was great.
And not for a moment did I get bored, actually.
Yeah. That is the main thing. No, nutrition is boring, but all the speakers they kept it light.
It's actually not boring. I feel it depends on the speakers.
Yeah.
They were very
I
lucid.
started loving this nutrition after I took over that food, drugs, and medical surgical equipment committee, and I brought up that book, that nutrition across the life cycle of the woman, got the best focus award, FOGSI Focus Award. So from there, I learned something. Nutrition is so dear to my heart. So thank you very much for, I must say that Lakshmi has given me opportunity for conducting this certificate course. Thank you.
Okay.
See you all
Bye. Good night.
Bye. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Please be there tomorrow.